Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the underworld. The Star Wars underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun, and it's all-round good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
What's up, Star Wars fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Star Wars Underworld podcast. We are your source for the latest breaking Star Wars news, reviews, and discussion. And we are back from a Star Wars Celebration Anaheim, back in our respective states and countries and planets, all in different places. And somehow, since the last time that we talked with y'all, 3 episodes of Kenobi have come out. How is this possible that 3 episodes of the most anticipated limited series in the history of ever came out between 2 of our episodes? I don't know, but we're going to be talking about all 3 of them tonight and focusing on that. And don't worry, we've got more Star Wars Celebration coverage coming later on when we don't have 3 episodes of Kenobi to catch up on, but we thought that would be what you guys wanted to hear first before there's 10 episodes of Kenobi and Andor and Bad Batch to talk about. So my name is Chris. Joining me tonight on the show, it's my good friend, Mr. Dominic Jones.
Hello, Chris. Hello, Ben. Hello, everybody. I wish I could say I was happy to be home, but that would be a lie. I very much wish we were still at the Anaheim Convention Center, still doing celebration things, still going to panels, still going to parties, still doing all of that stuff. But yeah, we remarked to each other once we got on this call how weird it was to see each other back in the windows that we normally see each other, and that's how all it took was a couple of days of being in the same space. And next thing you know, we were used to it. So it's a shame. But what I am looking forward to is talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi, talking about these 3 episodes. I somehow managed to find a little bit of time to watch them a second time in the last couple of days. I've been watching them on my phone to and from work, which has been an interesting way to watch it. I think I might be giving up on podcasts from here on out and just watching TV shows on the way to and from work. I kind of liked it, but yeah, so much to talk about, so much to get into. I can't wait to do it, and yeah, we'll get to Andor, Bad Batch, and all the other fun stuff in a future week when hopefully we're all a little bit more rested and a little bit more alert, because I don't know about you two, but I have been like barely able to keep standing for the last couple of days. Yeah. And I look forward to, once this episode is being done, just collapsing and sleeping for as many hours as I can, because I still haven't been able to do that. I just got in yesterday and have been, like I said, I've been at work. So yeah, anyways, lots to get into with Obi-Wan. Cannot wait. It's going to be a great show.
I'm thinking about this thing where, like, you know, we never want to leave Celebration after 4 days. After all of the years of waiting for Star Wars Celebration and all the hours of traveling there and back, being there for just 4 days always seems like not enough to cram in hanging out with like 100 of our friends that we only see every year to 3 years. And I'm trying to think of a solution as you were talking, and I finally thought of one. Star Wars summer camp. This is the only solution, because at first I thought Star Wars college, but I'm like, okay, that's a little bit too involved to go for an entire year or an entire semester. But Star Wars
learn
summer
something.
Camp,
come on,
like going to camp for like maybe a few weeks in the summer with all the Star Wars friends. Now that sounds like the right amount of time. Right.
Yeah, so we got Celebration London in 2023, but Celebration 2024, I think you're right. That should just be Star Wars Celebration Summer Camp, and let's go 2 weeks. It'll be a great time. We'll make sure it's like in a place where everyone can get to. It'll be wheelchair accessible. It'll be great. We'll have lots of fun. It'll be a terrific
and I
time.
even know where to have it. A certain lake in Italy would be perfect.
There we go. We can
just have some bungalows.
We can swim during the day and then lay out in the sand to dry off. Do all that stuff.
Go to the meadow. Get attacked
but
by a
I don't like
cow.
sand.
It's a good idea. I like it.
Wait, you control your height with a remote? That's
I do.
cool. I wish I could get taller.
But I don't
shorter.
like it. You can see you can see my computer monitor there.
That's hilarious. This is why you have to watch the YouTube videos. That other voice that you hear, that other face that you see, it's Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy. Also,
how's it going, everybody? Yeah, I need my guitar now, so I'll be singing those celebration blues. Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. It's still, I've been back for about 24 hours now, officially at home. It's like still like, I'm supposed to go to a panel or something. Oh, no, that's not this thing. And yeah, it's just weird. But I am anticipating what's to come, and I know we have so much to talk about. Like I said, a celebration. Lucasfilm, please have mercy upon us. Don't release anything. Just close down StarWars.com for the next 2 months. We don't need any more Star Wars news. We got plenty right now. We got plenty to talk about, okay? We're not even going to talk about Celebration on this episode. Spoiler alert, we're just focusing on Obi-Wan Kenobi because we don't have time for this stuff, okay? It's too much. So yeah, we're going to be tackling it over probably the next month, trying to get everything in. So it's going to be wild, guys.
Yeah, before we did the show, Ben was like, yeah, so we'll talk about the first 3 episodes and the first day of Celebration. And Chris and I were like, no, we will not. We will talk about the first 3 episodes of Kenobi. Everything else we will save for a future date. But yeah, I mean, we did touch on some of the things that have been revealed during our Celebration podcasts, which were a little bit shorter than they have been in previous years. They were recorded whenever we could find a few minutes here and there on the show floor, at Disneyland, at IHOP, of course, which we should say a huge thank you to everybody who came out to the IHOP party and to everybody who's watched and listened to it since then. That thing really was above and beyond even our expectations. It was truly something special, something incredible, and I'm glad that everybody who got to be there could be there. I was glad everybody else could listen and watch it, and boy, I can't wait to see what we can come up with for Celebration London, if we can find an equivalent to the International House of Pancakes, or if we'll find something else.
I mean, it's the International House of Pancakes. It has to be in other countries. Maybe there's just one country.
I did a little bit of research, and I realized that I don't believe, unless I'm getting my information wrong, that there is no IHOP in London or even the UK, which are like, okay, how can you call yourselves the International House of Pancakes if you're not international?
See, now you guys in this whole experience are realizing what those of us who live outside the US have realized for a long time. There's a lot of stuff that you guys claim is the international or the world or the galactic something or other that really just exists in your little bubbles. And for the rest of us, we're like, no, we have to see you to do that. We have to do our own thing back home. So you guys are just realizing that now, and it's fun to see. But yeah, thank you to everybody who came out. Thank you to the people at IHOP, some of whom you saw on the show,
amazing,
who were incredible to work with, and incredible fun there. So what a time that was. We will have slightly less pancake references for the next couple of weeks on the show, I'm sure, than we did before. But rest assured, they're not going away. And should we find ourselves in Anaheim or some other U.S. city again for another celebration, I think it's safe to say we'll be at the very least looking into going back and doing another round and doing another one of those, because it was so much fun.
Heck yes. So we're going to be getting into the Kenobi talk in just a few minutes. Real quick, we're going to remind everybody to punch that subscribe button. Chewy, if you're watching on YouTube, you can find us live every Thursday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern time, and we also have a pre-show that we do most weeks. This week we were too tired to do it, sorry, but I think there might be a Stranger Things review coming up in the next few weeks.
Oh, right.
maybe.
That exists.
Yes, that's a thing. That's a thing. I have not had time to get through
I
anywhere
completely
near.
forgot. I have not watched any television that is not Obi-Wan Kenobi in the last basically since the mid-season finale of Better Call Saul last Monday. Nothing has crossed my my wavelength. Not even the stuff I like.
We'll give everybody a chance to catch up on Stranger Things before we talk about it, but you can find that over at patreon.com/the SWU. You can watch that live or on demand by any pledge level. You can also super chat with us here on our live streams to support us. Each super chat buys one pancake for Joel at our next party.
Can I just tell you guys a quick thing about the super chats? So Joel was on the IHOP show, right? And we made the joke that he should pay us. Him and I talked beforehand about whether or not we should take that joke even further. And for a brief moment, I considered giving him a $5 bill to then give me when he came up to talk. And we decided we were taking the joke a little bit too far, but I just thought you should all know that conversation happened. And we considered it, and we were both on board with it. But then we decided to step back and just
made the responsible decision.
Yeah. Go for the slightly safer joke. Although Joel is in the chat saying we should have done it. And yes, Joel, I think maybe we should have.
Next time. There's always next time.
Absolutely hilarious. And of course, shout out to Joel and our other channel members as well. It's another thing that you can do to support us here. And of course, you can find all the Culture Slate merch over at cultureslate.com/store. Make sure you check out all the other shows that are on our network, including Star Wars Culture, Chatter Squadron, and Ion Cannon. They all were at Star Wars Celebration in full force and all have their own great content from the convention over on their respective YouTube channels and social media accounts. So please check out those shows for those listening at Star Wars Culture, Chatter Squadron, and Ion Cannon, spelled EYE on Cannon. Check it out. And if you want to send us feedback, swunderworld@gmail.com is a great place to do it. I would say it's pretty safe to throw out if you had some really cool celebration memories and experiences. Send them to swunderworld@gmail.com. We'll fit them into our shows talking about celebration. So that's a great way to be involved and get more than just the experience of us three here into those shows. And of course, at the SWU. That's half of that banner is not right. At the SWU is where you can follow us on social media. All right.
I mean, we can thank people for listening at the top. We don't have to just wait till the end of the show. There's no reason.
I forgot that was the one I usually do at the end because I'm out of practice. I'm used to just watching Ben eat pancakes while podcasting.
As you do. Look, it's not my fault. She brought it 5 minutes before we started, okay?
And we were going to start later. And then
also, they were really good.
We were going to start at a certain time. And then somebody was like, hey, they're dropping Kenobi in like 45 minutes. And I'm like, okay, we got to start now.
We really do have to do a whole timeline of behind the scenes of how the IHOP thing actually went from our point of view, because it was wild, guys.
Yeah, we should do one of those audio documentaries where it's like a radio show where we look back on it. An oral history, as they call it, I believe. That was the term I was looking for. All right, but enough about us. Enough about IHOP. Go watch that episode or listen to that episode if you haven't already. Let's talk Obi-Wan Kenobi. Parts 1, 2, and 3 are available now. That's what we're talking about. It's basically a movie at this point. I think we have roughly 2 hours worth of content to get
More
into
than that,
here.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's dive right into it, and we'll start how we always do. Go around the table, give our initial impressions of the episode. And Ben, it seems extra appropriate this week in a week where we're talking a lot about Ben Kenobi, for us to throw it to you first for your initial impressions.
Ben. Yeah. So it's here, guys. It happened. And I'm very pleased to say I've enjoyed every single episode of this thus far. Especially the first episode, but especially the second and third episode too. They've all been very, very solid, I think. And it's weird to say we're halfway through the season, but we are now. It's wild, but I think this show is delivering on what it kind of teased us and also kind of what I expected, but then tenfold giving us something I didn't expect. I expected a very depressed Kenobi, I've expected another rematch that wasn't as intense as what we got in previous iterations, but still something that is another confrontation between Kenobi and Vader. We got that in the most recent episode. I didn't expect young Leia, to come in and completely steal the show from the get-go. Didn't expect that at all. We'd heard the rumors, we talked about them, but I didn't expect that much. And having Jimmy Smits back and just the whole cast, it's just been phenomenal. And yes, we have gotten a bit of glimpses of Hayden Christensen, and Vader is incredible. There's just so many little things that add up to a incredible first 3 episodes that I think are really, really great. I do, I'm not, it's not perfect. I have my quibbles, and maybe we'll get to them eventually. But I think overall they've done a remarkable job of giving us this show and having it kind of justify its existence and do its kind of jigs and jags and see how exactly it goes and understand, this is where it should be. Because I know everyone's like, oh, he's going to be protecting Luke. No, he's protecting Leia. I know that was something we weren't expecting, but I think it absolutely works. So, yeah, a lot to get into tonight.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I thought was perhaps the most unexpected thing, but maybe it was something that should have been expected, and we'll talk about the duel more later in the episode, but Vader trying to burn Obi-Wan alive.
Yeah.
It makes
crazy.
It makes perfect sense, but when it happened, I was like, "Whoa, never thought of that." That's why Deborah Chow, Joby Harold. It's why it's those guys writing the thing and not me, because I never would have even thought of that. But yeah, Chris, what about you? Your initial thoughts on parts 1, 2, and 3 of Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Yeah, it's difficult for me to take 3 episodes and give my thoughts on those 3 episodes because I have different feelings about each one, and it's not an entire series either. So I can't just say this is what I think of the series because I'm like, well, it's not even halfway. It's about halfway done right now. So I think what I'll say is, I thought the first episode was amazing, incredible, one of the best things that I've ever seen with Star Wars on screen. I thought it was an amazing introduction to the plot and the characters of this episode. And just starting with that Order 66 flashback scene, it was so incredible to see a scene essentially from the prequels shot in a more Rogue One style of filming. It very much reminded me of how Rogue One was shot, with the camera guy being like walking behind the characters. Like, I thought that was really interesting. So that just blew me away from the start of the episode. And I thought the introduction of Leia and the introduction of Obi-Wan on Tatooine and his conversation with Owen, I thought all of that was absolutely incredible. I thought the introduction of the Inquisitors was really great. I loved that first scene with the Grand Inquisitor and the little cafe. Like, I thought, sir, this is a Wendy's. I thought that was a great product. Wait, no, that's a meme. That's not an episode. Whoops, sorry. The internet's real.
It all goes together.
But yeah, no, that was really, really incredible. As the season has moved forward, I feel like I have more and more issues with the episodes. Like, the second episode I thought was really, really good. Not necessarily great, but a really good episode. And then the third one is the one that I have the most like, okay, I wish this was different. I wish that was different about. So I'll kind of, when we talk about each one individually, I'll get more into the specifics of it. But overall, the series started really great. And I think that, I still think it's going to continue to be great. I just feel we're in kind of like, there was a low moment before we got to Vader. And then even with Vader, I'm like not 100% on board with the way that everything went down.
Interesting. Yeah. I think it's been perfect. I genuinely have no complaints. Like, I'm struggling. I knew you both have said you have quibbles with it. I don't have any right now. I'm genuinely like, I've loved every second of it. And I'm totally on board with it. I was ready to have, you know, an issue here, an issue there with it, but from the previously on the Star Wars prequels thing that happens before the first episode, all the way through to the final moment of the third episode with Reva capturing Leia, I've been on board. You know, I've questions. I'm curious about some things. I'm curious to know more, but I've been drawn in. And the things that, you know, I might think are kind of odd, like, why does Reva know Vader's true identity?
Right.
I'm like, there's a reason for it. There's a reason for it, and we're halfway through this story, and I'm sort of like, if there is no reason for it at the end of episode 6, yeah, I'll come back and say I have a little bit of an issue with it. But at this moment in time, because I believe there is something coming down the line, I'm on board with it. I'm curious to know why. I'm curious to know why that she would know that truth, and I've been on board with everything from Lil Leia to Uncle Owen to having Bail Organa back, and it's fun to see Jimmy Smits as the, you know, leader of a planet, because the last thing I'd seen him in before this was the ending of my West Wing rewatch, where he gets elected president of the U.S. So I'm like, President Matthew Santos moving up in the galaxy, let's go. So I'm loving this, honestly. Like, Lola is fantastic. Everything has been just terrific. I've decided I'm getting that Hasbro Lola that we saw at Celebration. That thing is so good, so good.
Well,
so, I'm looking forward to getting into all this stuff and to doing the deep dive on everything. But I'm just telling you guys up front, if you're expecting some deep complaints with the structure of the series right now, for me, you're not getting it. I'm on board.
I'm almost 100% sure I know where the name of that droid came from. Because there is a Star Wars parody of a Barry Manilow song where it's, her name was Leia, she was a princess. But the original version is, her name was Lola, she was a showgirl.
Oh, interesting. See, I hear the name, I hear Lola and Star Wars, and I think of Weird Al and Yoda. You know, I met him in the swamp down in Dagobah. Anyways, we're not at a celebration party. There'll be no singing tonight.
I mean, that's already happened a few times. A little late for that.
Let's talk about let's dive into Obi-Wan first. Let's talk about the titular character, as one might say. And Chris, I'll throw it over to you first this time. What have you thought of the way the series has portrayed Obi-Wan at this moment in time, 10 years after Revenge of the Sith? You know, alone in the desert, hasn't barely seen anybody in those 10 years, being forced back into the action. What have you thought of the way they've handled the main character?
He looks young. He looks younger than I thought he would, to be honest. So that's one thing, because I rewatched the ending of Twin Sons this week to kind of compare, because that was probably 6 or 7 years after this, and he just like 30 years. Like, so that whole aging on Tatooine happened in the last third of his time there. So other than that kind of like aesthetic thing, that's kind of a little interesting. I thought that the portrayal of his character was fantastic. Can
I interject one thing though?
Yeah.
He may look young, but I'm going to say he feels old.
Yes. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what I was expecting.
Works.
Yeah, I don't know what I was expecting, but you know, you think Ewan McGregor, you think Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, Phantom Menace, you think that sort of more youthful portrayal of Anakin. And I feel like more and more what we're seeing is Ewan McGregor not doing an Alec Guinness impression, but playing a version of the character that is a lot closer to the way Sir Alec played him back in the day.
Well, what's so interesting is that, you know, just jumping ahead to the fight real quick, by talking still about his age.
Yeah.
You know, he obviously very out of practice at the beginning of the fight, and they make a big kind of deal out of how belabored his swings are. And it's interesting because, you know, it is reminiscent to an extent of him fighting Vader for the last time in A New Hope, But then also, it is not reminiscent at all to his fight with Maul. Like Obi-Wan still has a lot of strength and power, and he moves very, very, very swiftly. And in his fight with Maul, interestingly enough. So again, there's a bit of in Twin Sons. Yeah, there's an incongruity there, which is fascinating. But going back to his just characterization, yeah, for sure, he's got that old kind of jaded thing, and it very much is reminiscent of Luke and The Last Jedi, like that. But there's so many parallels between Obi-Wan in the desert and Luke on Act 2. Like there's a lot of similarities between them. They feel like they're kind of at the end of something rather than the beginning, which is really fascinating. So yeah, I loved his portrayal. I thought it was very spot on. It makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I think what we're going to see as the last part of this series plays out is Obi-Wan, in a sense, getting his mojo back, because he's so broken at the start of this series. He's so reluctant to do anything. When Bail calls him to go save Leia, he doesn't want to. And that's, and I feel like McGregor plays those moments so well, where he sort of it's like he almost knows he should go out there and do it, but he doesn't feel he can. He doesn't feel he's worthy of it, perhaps even. And he holds on to those. You see him in those moments, sort of holding on to his failures and not being able to see past them. And when we meet him again in Twin Sons, that's an Obi-Wan who is much more confident in himself, confident in his missions, confident in the fact that he's in the right place doing the right thing, and that there is a purpose to what he's doing, and that everything that happened before him, he can't change the past, but he can hopefully change the future. And I feel like that's what we've got to see over the back half of these episodes, is at the very least him getting on that trajectory. And likely, as we'll talk about, a lot of that will have to do, or will relate to him being able to commune with Qui-Gon, because that's something that he's trying to do in this, but he can't. And he's failing to do it. Whereas I feel like the Obi-Wan we see in Twin Sons likely has had more than a few conversations with Qui-Gon about what needs to be done and why. So when Maul shows up on his doorstep, there's no hesitation. He knows what's going to happen. He knows what he has to do, and he does it, without ego, without joy, but also without fear. And this is an Obi-Wan that is very much driven by fear, and perhaps even a bruised ego. He was a great Jedi once. Kumail Nanjiani's character, sort of at one point says, I can't imagine Obi-Wan Kenobi being afraid, or something to that effect.
Yeah.
And yet we see him throughout these episodes. He's afraid. He's afraid. He people had this image of him in their minds. But again, very, very like Luke in Last Jedi. And he doesn't feel he can live up to it, and doesn't feel he has lived up to it because of his failures with Anakin. And the only way he's going to be able to set that right in time will be what he does with Luke. But he can't be ready for what he does with Luke until he faces his past, which is what we're seeing in these first three, and what we will continue to see over the next three. Ben, over to you. Your thoughts on Obi-Wan Kenobi, the character.
Yeah, it's I like what they're doing here with him. I think it's spot on with what I kind of expected, but also even more so in regards to, he is broken. He is someone who is kind of taken this task of, I have to stay on Tatooine at this guard post and watch over this kid for the rest of my life. That whole thing. He's taken that to almost the extreme of saying, I can't do this. And I like kind of Bail calling him out on this, saying Leia's just as important as he is. And also, this has nothing to do with the boy. Yes, there was a close call recently, but Luke's not in danger right now. Leia is. And I like that, and kind of bringing him out of this exile. And he is still, he's very different. I think maybe not as different as, say, Luke was in The Last Jedi versus the original trilogy. It's still, you watch the prequel trilogy, you see this upbeat, powerful strong mentally and physically Jedi that is Obi-Wan Kenobi in the prequels and the Clone Wars, and this guy who can walk into a room and will jump down in the middle of 1,000 battle droids in front of General Grievous and go, "Hello there, how's it going? What are you gonna do? Come at me, bro!" Like, that's the Obi-Wan Kenobi that we knew. This is not that guy. When you watch that fight at the end of Episode 3 with him fighting Vader, every shot of his face looks fearful. He looks terrified. And that's not befitting of a Jedi. That is not the Jedi way to make decisions out of fear, to be fearful. But you can see from the moment he learns the truth about Anakin and Vader, he is set on this path and just set into a spiral of realizing what he's up against. And it's just destroying him. And I think that's reflective in also just his how he completely gets wiped the floor by Vader. And I'm looking forward to how this continues to play out in regards to him gaining more confidence, gaining more of being more like the Jedi we've seen in New Hope, and also gaining some physical strength too. I think the last fight that he has with Vader in this one, he's going to win. But I would expect at least one, if not two more confrontations between the two of these guys. And I think each time Vader's going to get better at this. I think maybe similar to how, Kanan and Ezra kind of got better at fighting the Grand Inquisitor throughout the entirety of season 1 of Rebels. Kind of similar to that. But, I think it's good to see that. Good to see Obi-Wan refuse the call, refusing that, having Brea and Bail coming to him and say, "Hey, we need your help," and like, find someone else. Like, that's powerful stuff. And going forward, it's going to be interesting to see like how what's he's going to be presented with a lot more choices in this season. How he actually chooses to, how he faces them is going to be interesting.
Yeah, Ben, you mentioned when Bail comes to call on Obi-Wan in person and tries to get him to go on this mission. He says, he points out, Leia's the one in danger. Leia's the one that needs help. And he convinces Obi-Wan to go by saying, he has to do it for her. And I wonder if there's a little bit of the so-called pronoun game going on there. Because he's not specific when he says her, meaning Leia.
Right.
Something that I have been very happy with through these first couple of episodes, and something I was wondering about going into the series, was we've got Obi-Wan back, we got Ewan back, we got Vader back, we got Hayden back. The missing person from the trilogy, or from the trio of the prequel trilogy of Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Padmé, can't really be in this thing in a major way because she's dead. But it would feel wrong if her presence was not felt in this show. And I've loved the way over the course of the first 3 episodes that you've continued to feel Padmé's presence throughout this series. And I think when Bail says, do it for her, he might be talking about Leia. That's certainly possible. But there's also a very real possibility that he's talking about Padmé. That this is Obi-Wan is going out to rescue Leia, not just because Bail is asking, but because he's going to save one of his best friend's children. He's going to save one of his best friend's daughter. And then, you get the moment in episode 2 where he sees Leia and they're having that little argument about whether she's stubborn or not, which is such a great moment. Such a great moment. And he just stops and he looks at her and goes, you remind me of someone. And then, of course, you have the moment where Leia asks him about her mother, which was just wonderful. And, in the previously on, it does show Padmé saying to him, there is good in him. And I have to shout out our buddy Din, F105, still on tour in Los Angeles. If you're listening to this in time, you maybe can hit one more show. He pointed this out years ago, that Padmé was the one who said there's still good in him in Revenge of the Sith. And if there were ever to be a story about Obi-Wan Kenobi post Revenge of the Sith, pre New Hope, wouldn't those words linger in Obi-Wan's mind? Wouldn't he be wondering about what Padme saw in Anakin that he didn't? And wouldn't he want to find out? And now that Obi-Wan knows that Anakin's alive, that he's confronted him, and now that he's met Padme's daughter, who reminds him so much of her. You know, I don't think Obi-Wan is going to be on the run from Vader for the last 3 episodes. I think Obi-Wan's going to seek out Vader, and I don't think it's to kill him. I think he's going to confront Anakin the way he did on Mustafar and the way Luke will one day will on the Death Star, and honestly the way Ahsoka once did on or actually will eventually on Malachor.
Yeah,
because they think there's a chance they can save him, and Obi-Wan is going to leave this moment, unfortunately, believe that Anakin can't be saved. Because only the right circumstances of Luke in Return of the Jedi could actually save him. But Obi-Wan will leave this moment and will tell Luke, you know, he's a machine, the man twisted and evil.
Obi-Wan didn't tell Ahsoka about Anakin.
No.
That's interesting.
Well, does Obi-Wan even know that Ahsoka's out there?
I mean, they may not know that she's Fulcrum. The Rebel Alliance knows about her, but maybe through the code name and not directly that it's her right away.
Or does maybe that's
Bail knows about her. At least,
and we don't know when all that begins to happen. Too.
Yeah,
and maybe the Ahsoka novel goes into it a little bit, but that may be an interesting question that could be addressed in the Ahsoka series. Did Ahsoka and Obi-Wan know about each other in this time frame? That would be an interesting question. I suspect Dave Filoni might be interested in that one as well. But they both believed that perhaps there was a chance to save Anakin. Ahsoka, we're assuming that with Obi-Wan. Ahsoka was perhaps a little bit, she realized as soon as she saw that eye from when she smashed open the mask that there wasn't much of a chance, and Obi-Wan will likely have a moment similar to that, I suspect, as this episode goes on, or as the series goes on, so that he can tell Luke, you can't save him, you have to kill him,
and that might then explain why he didn't tell Ahsoka, because if he feels like there isn't good in him, then why would he tell her? That doesn't make any sense.
I suspect that Obi-Wan just doesn't know. I suspect the two of them don't know about each other. That's the theory I'm going with, that they, for whatever reason, they are kept apart.
So even again, Bail didn't think to, like, when he finds out about one, finds out about both of them, to tell them about each other. Like, oh yeah, my 2 Jedi friends, they've been separated for 10 years, and I'm not going to tell them about each other.
Yeah.
Or it could have been a request from either of them, specifically Kenobi.
That's true.
Kenobi really wants to not anyone to know about him, any other Jedi to know about him. He's singular focused on, I'm here to protect Luke, and I don't want any visitors. I don't want to bring attention to what I'm doing here.
Yeah, I mean, one of the most visceral moments in part 1 is when Benny Safdie finds him. I need to start learning the characters' names. I just know them by their actors.
Nari, I believe.
Nari is the character's name. Yeah, I wrote down some of these so I would know. But when Nari tracks him down, Obi-Wan tells him to go away. He doesn't want anything to do with him. He tells him the fight is over. And then the next time we see Nari, he's, been strung up by the Inquisitors and being left, his body is left behind on Tatooine as a message to the villagers. Like, this is what happens to you if you go against the Empire. And it just shows you, it just shows you, and it shows Obi-Wan, or it shows you what it says about Obi-Wan is that he almost doesn't care at this point. I think he does care, but he's convinced himself that the only way to survive this is to not get involved. And it's the same thing that holds him back from going after Leia. It's this fear. It's this perhaps a little bit of a bruised ego. It's a depression at everything that he's lost, that he's convinced himself that the only way to survive this is to not get involved. It's to stay out. he would get along with Benicio del Toro a whole lot. Live free, don't join. At this point, that's his kind of message to everybody. Yeah. So who knows? Maybe I suspect there's an answer out there about the Ahsoka question, and I suspect Dave Filoni is the one who has it. And wouldn't shock me if in about a year's time we're sitting around talking about episodes of Star Wars Ahsoka, going, oh, so that's why.
And I would imagine during the process of making this show, they had to have at least discussed the idea of, would Ahsoka show up in this show? Should Ahsoka show up in this show? How does that work? What's going on with Ahsoka at this period in time? I mean, they could obviously absolutely make it happen. They can literally do anything they want. So, why or why not that didn't happen? I'd be very curious to know, because I'm sure that was a conversation between Deborah Chow and Dave Filoni. I guarantee.
Yeah. And if you notice in the credits, after you get through like the main credits, the first of the smaller ones is special thanks to Dave Filoni. So, Dave, I think Dave's presence can definitely be felt on this show. I want to talk about Obi-Wan, the scene between Obi-Wan and Uncle Owen. This is a really sort of interesting scene. We get Obi-Wan. We see Obi-Wan watching over Luke. We see him deliver the toy that Luke is still playing with 9 years later in A New Hope. Although Owen doesn't want it. He doesn't want anything to do with it. And these two have an interesting confrontation that then spills over into the moments after Owen's little stare down with Reva, or the third sister, whatever you want to call her. Ben, I'll throw it over to you this time, if you can if you can suppress that yawn.
Coughing, but I'm good.
It's just a little cough. Okay, we'll throw it over to you this time. What do you think of the interaction between Uncle Owen and Obi-Wan?
I mean, it's a little more. We got some of it in the trailers, but I think it was great to see it play out fully and see it's funny how that whole scene, Owen is perfectly safe. He shows up in A New Hope. That's literally the first time we see him. It's fine. But then you see him stare down Reva, I should say. I guess I would pronounce her name. I'm still trying to get used to it. And you have her threatening Beru and Luke and Owen. And it's pretty intense, and you're kind of on the edge of your seat the entire time. Mm-hmm. But then also getting that interaction, because we've always talked about, we've always wondered, what is Owen's deal? Why does he not? And you kind of get his point of view with this in the context of the show. You get it, because this whole idea, I think this show, I think an ongoing theme will be fear. Owen is maybe not living in fear, but is definitely being cautious about understanding that people like Luke, and especially people like Obi-Wan, are wanted. They are very dangerous, and the Empire's looking for them. And I think that whole thing leads him to, like, you need to stay away from us. This cannot be. You're just going to draw attention that doesn't need to be. And at the same time, Obi-Wan's doing his own thing. He's trying to balance this of, like, I need to stay close to Luke, but don't need to get too close. I can't have everybody else showing up and drawing attention to me, and all this. I think Obi-Wan, is kind of living in fear a little bit. I think that's I think he's kind of, this great Jedi has succumbed to the one thing Jedi are trained not to succumb to, which is fear, which is just being fearful of what happened. Afraid of what he might do, afraid that if he leaves Luke behind him for a second, that something could happen, and also, the fear of, what his former apprentice has become. But I like the whole interaction between Owen and Obi-Wan, because, it just cements, and you can watch this and watch New Hope and go, okay, I get it. I get why, he's trying to warn me. Yeah, Briz is just a crazy old man. He's trying to warn him off. It makes sense now.
Chris, what about you? What did you think of Owen and Ben, the showdown, the stare down?
No, I agree with everything that Ben has said, and really what I'm interested in is to see where things go from here. You know, is this the last of their interactions, or are there going to be more? Because, you know, Luke does know who old Ben Kenobi is. He's aware of him in A New Hope. So there has to be some type of further interaction between Luke and Ben, I think. So I'm curious to see if we're going to see that in this show or not. I kind of think we will. It doesn't really make sense to cast someone for Luke just to have him in, you know, for being stared at by and binoculars. Like, you know, I think there's going to be a little bit more to it, and so I'm really interested to see how that goes. He's got to end up with the Skyhopper somehow.
Yeah, I wonder if by the end of this series, Owen will soften just a little bit, just for a moment, and allow Luke and Obi-Wan to have a moment in there. What struck me about Owen in this scene is, like, this is a character we've only really seen once. You know, we get a quick moment with him in Attack of the Clones, but really what we know him from is A New Hope, and we know him in a moment where he's not the villain, but he's an obstacle for Luke. He's standing in Luke's way. He's stopping Luke from achieving what he wants to achieve. And honestly, he's maybe acting a little selfishly. You know, he's holding Luke back when Luke should be he should be letting Luke go out there and live his life. And so it's easy to have kind of a negative opinion of Uncle Owen. You know, you don't think he's the worst guy in the world, but you know, maybe not your favorite guy. But in seeing him with Obi-Wan and seeing the way he stares down Reva, I was struck with this sort of profound understanding of Uncle Owen in a different way, and an understanding of this character, of who he is and what his heart really is. And I left those scenes with this sort of feeling that, you know, yeah, maybe Owen doesn't wear his heart on his sleeve the way Bale does. He's not as openly affectionate as Bale might be. But he loves Luke. And Luke Skywalker was loved growing up. And, you know, he may not have known his biological parents, but Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru truly loved this kid, and they would do everything for him. Yeah. And they do, and he does risk everything for him. And so, you know, I never thought Luke had necessarily a bad childhood, but it really became crystal clear in this episode that these two who took in Luke, they weren't you know, they weren't Uncle Vernon and Aunt Petunia from Harry Potter, right? They really did care about this kid, and they really had his best interest in mind most of the time. You know, maybe not in that little moment there in A New Hope where it's that awkward moment between between being an adult and being a kid, and both parent and child have to navigate that in a difficult way for most people. You know, I'm not saying they were perfect, but they did their love for Luke was never in doubt. And I thought that was just, you know, to incorporate that into the show and to add that extra layer to that relationship. But it's just, this is one of the reasons why I'm saying the show is, as far as I care, is perfect so far. It's given me a new understanding of characters I haven't thought about barely at all since they were first on screen, that have been but yet have been around for 45 years. So yeah. I love it. Awesome. I love it. I'm on Uncle Owen's side from here on out. I have a new respect for that man. Sticking with Obi-Wan, let's talk about the moment where he finds out the truth and his reaction to discovering the truth. And Ben, we'll go to you first on this one. What'd you think of Obi-Wan's reaction to learning what did happen to his former apprentice stroke best friend stroke brother?
Yeah, it's an interesting, not necessarily how I expected it to go down, but I'm not complaining. I think it was handled well. I think it adds more to Reva's character, that she knows his name. She knows who Anakin Skywalker is. She knows who he is to Obi-Wan. And there's something more to her character. And to those who are asking, like, well, what's the deal? Like, we're meant to ask these questions. Like Reva, there's a big reveal coming with her character, I think, especially considering that that opening little flashback thing with Order 66 and the Jedi Temple, but also his reaction and going into the third episode of just feeling, I think it knocks Obi-Wan even more off balance. I think he's very much not himself in the first 2 episodes, but I think that just further throws him off to where you see him, snapping at Leia and, they're not all good, Leia. People aren't all good, and he's very not Obi-Wan. He's not this fine, even-tempered person. He is on edge. And, and it begs the question. I haven't really heard anything from the writers. I know they've kind of addressed it, but the idea that he didn't know all this time. That's fascinating. I'm curious, what their thought process is going. Because you kind of assume that, hey, he would have figured it out pretty quick, but the dude lives in a cave. So, I mean, it's not outside the realm of possibilities. He doesn't get the daily news about Vader. So
you would think the Jawas would gossip about that.
See,
hey, did you hear about this Vader guy, Houdini?
This is something I think is really interesting that Obi-Wan doesn't know about Vader. In the old expanded universe of the Legends stories, right? There's that great moment at the end of the Dark Lord Rise of Darth Vader book where Obi-Wan is on Tatooine and he's in a cantina and he sees the news. And you get kind of a similar moment to this where he realizes, oh my God, Anakin's still alive. And I always thought that was kind of a silly way for him to find out that he just happens to be watching CNN and there it is. And, ultimately it plays into something that I think a kind of a new direction that Star Wars has gone, where for a while, I think Darth Vader was treated in a lot of the books and a lot of the stories as kind of just like everybody knew who he was. He was the Emperor's second in command. He was around all the time, yada, yada, yada. I think they're portraying Vader, and I suspect George intended Vader to be more of like a shadow, be a character that not everybody's familiar with. No, people in the galaxy, they know the Emperor, and maybe they've heard of his enforcer, Darth Vader. But he's not seen around a lot. He's not somebody people talk about a lot. He's more of a unspoken threat. And so when he shows up, it's a big deal. And most people who come face to face with Vader don't survive. They don't live long enough to tell the tales. So Obi-Wan, if that's the way Vader's portrayed throughout the galaxy, to me it makes sense that Obi-Wan hasn't heard about him in 10 years, because he's not necessarily watching CNN. He's not paying attention to what's going on out in the galaxy. He's singularly focused on his mission and on trying to reach Qui-Gon and grappling with his failures and all that stuff. So he's been living with the idea for 10 years that Anakin is dead. And that again brings me back to what I was saying about what Padmé tells him in Revenge of the Sith, which is Obi-Wan has thought Anakin is dead for all these 10 years. That's why he hasn't sought him out. Now that he knows he's alive, he will think back to that moment with Padmé and will then go out and try and find Anakin because of what she said, because now he's thinking he might have a second shot. He might have a chance to undo his failures of the past. And he'll likely fail again, because only Luke can undo that or save Anakin. Not even undo it, just save him. And he'll realize through the course of this series that all he can do is focus on the future. He can't dwell on the past. So to me, that moment is again another thing where I'm like, perfect, love it, brilliant. Want to know how Reva knows his name? Want to know how Reva knows the truth? But I like this a lot. Chris, what about you? Your thoughts on this?
Yeah. Again, it's like a thing where it's like I have to see where it goes from here. Like right now, I don't think there's enough information for me to know for sure, what's kind of going on. So I think I really like the way that it's being set up, and yeah, I kind of need to see to have a final opinion on it.
That's fair.
Yeah.
There's more. There's questions. We're still in the questions portion of the show, right?
Exactly. That's where I feel we are.
Yeah, which is my favorite part. My favorite part of any show is when all the questions are being asked, because we can just imagine whatever answer we want.
And, you know,
once we start to get answers, that's when it's like, okay, hold on, not sure I'm crazy about that.
And this is a pivotal moment. These two characters that have been around for 45 years, Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi. This is a pivotal moment in especially Obi-Wan's life of finding out, and essentially Reva is the linchpin in them returning and having another confrontation. We don't know the significance of Reva. We don't know who she is, where she came from, whatever. I think it's going to shed a lot of light on, how we look at her character, because right now we're kind of like, okay, who is Reva? Where did she come from? Maybe she's one of the younglings from the Ing. Maybe she one of the Inquisitors, became one of the Inquisitors. There's a lot going on there, but she is important now because she knows information. She obviously knows more than the average Inquisitor. But exactly how much does she know? Who is she? Where does she come from? That's all questions that I think is going to make things. And there still could be a lot more revelations about revelations, ladies and gentlemen, and also the fact that she has Leia now, and she's probably going to discover Leia's secret and what that means for that. And I'm thinking like, okay, Reva's probably not going to survive. If she figures out who Leia is, she's either going to turn good for some reason, or she's not going to live to see the end of this. So there's lots got to happen, but a lot is still up in the air.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about Reva, because she's been through the first 2.5 episodes. She's very much the primary antagonist of the series. It's only when Vader comes on the scene that she gets a little bit eclipsed, and even then, she is the one to capture Princess Leia. In talking about Reva, I first want to acknowledge everything that's been going on in the, with the reaction to the show, specifically with the racist comments and threats that have been directed at Moses Ingram, who has played the character. Obviously, we don't condone that here. We condemn it. It's absolutely absurd that this is happening again. But in a sense, it's not surprising because we've seen it happen before with Kelly Marie Tran and John Boyega and everybody else who's gotten this treatment from quote unquote fans. And it's absolutely, it's horrible to see. It's horrible to see. I hate that we're here again. And anybody who is doing this should be taking a good long look in the mirror and asking themselves what they're doing and questioning the choices that they've made, because it's just not acceptable. It's not right. It's horrible. It's just horrible, and I hate that Moses and any actors of color who come into Star Wars always wind up getting this treatment. And one thing that we hear a lot is that people will say, I don't hate the actor, I just hate the character. And it's like, okay, that's fine. I'm not saying you have to like every character. This is not the time for that. If you want to condemn the racist comments, it shouldn't matter whether you like the character or not. There's a time and a place to give your thoughts, and when the actor is being hit with constant racist threats, which she posted on her Instagram, and they're pretty horrible. That's not the time to lay out your reasons for disliking the character. That's the time to stand with the actor.
Read the room
against that. And the other thing is, in all of the defenses of Moses Ingram, you'll hear a lot of people say, "Oh, she's a fantastic actor. She doesn't deserve this," all that stuff. And it's true. She's a fantastic actor. She's giving a tremendous performance. She's been an absolute bright spot in this series. But even if she wasn't, she still doesn't deserve this, right? Like, it's sometimes the response feels like, oh, she's a great actor, so she doesn't deserve it. It's like, no, she doesn't deserve it because she's human. Nobody deserves to get the kind of stuff that she's getting, regardless of their level of skill or talent. And again, I will say she is a great actor. She's doing wonderful things in the show, but that shouldn't matter in, pushing back against the racism that she's receiving. And the final thing I'll say about it is that I've been glad to see the response from Lucasfilm. They were very quick in putting out a statement against this, and I was very pleased to see the response from Ewan McGregor. He posted that video on the official Star Wars accounts. Posted the video of him sitting in his car talking to the camera. Thanking people for making the show one of the most streamed things on the series, but also standing with Moses Ingram. And he said something that I wish somebody had been saying for a long time. Somebody of his stature had been saying for a long time, which is, if you're sending racist comments, you're no Star Wars fan. And imagine if somebody of his stature in 2014 had said, if you have a problem with the Black Stormtrooper, you're no Star Wars fan.
Mm.
Yeah.
Would that have made all the difference? I don't know. I can't be sure. No, none of us can be sure. But it certainly would have been better than doing what they did, which was trying to act like it was a small minority, or pretending that they didn't exist. So it's been nice to see that change from the people behind the scenes, and even though it absolutely sucks that things haven't changed in the sense that Moses is getting the same treatment that John and Kelly and everybody before them has gotten as well. So just wanted to address that before we talked about the character. I'll leave it open if either of you want to add anything before we get too far into this.
I mean, I think it's really fantastic that everybody's speaking out, because that's really all you can do. You can't control what people say, but you can control how you respond to it. And I think that, it's difficult because the negative things that people say a lot of times weigh more on us than the positive things. And sometimes one negative and racist message will have the weight of 100 people, praising you. And so I think it's important that as many people as possible speak out in defense and in praise of Moses in this situation, to kind of offset the amount of people that are in fewer number, but still in too great a number, sending negative things.
Yeah, let's be clear. It's not just one thing. It's been she posted a whole bunch of stuff. It's been a whole bunch of stuff, and that's just a fraction of what she is receiving. And also worth noting that after she shared that, she subsequently shared another post after people had started speaking out in defense, where she said the love is louder, which was good and heartening to see. It's just a shame that it had to come after all that awfulness to begin with.
Yeah.
And I do have to give a shout out to Lucasfilm. I think they've handled this well. They've handled it definitely better than they have in the past. I'm not just from my personal point of view, I'm not gonna totally throw them under the bus, because I think my personal opinion maybe in the past was well, just ignore it because there's just a few of them or whatever else. Now we're at the point where even if there is just a few of them, this is happening way too much. This is happening. It's happened countless times with countless different people, and just ignoring it is not fixing the problem. It's not addressing it. And I appreciate them. I appreciate Ewan coming out and saying what he said. And it's pissing the right people off. I think if you look at the YouTube and the Twitter and you see the people that are mad, they're showing their true colors now. They are absolutely showing their true colors now. If you're mad about this, if you're mad that Lucasfilm is speaking out against people being racist to an actor of theirs, I don't even know what to say to you.
As Ewan said, you're no Star Wars fan.
No, exactly. Of course you can have an opinion about, everybody has an opinion. And we're about to talk about Reva as a character. We've been talking about her as a character. And it's okay if you don't like her for some reason, if you don't enjoy her acting. But like you said, there's a time and a place for that. And there's more important things than getting your hot take out there on Twitter and letting everybody know what you think of this character and this actor. Maybe cool it down a little bit. Maybe take a step back, take a breather, and go okay, there's more important things at play here than my opinion. My opinion is not the be and end all, to end all, and it's not the most important thing in this scenario. So I think overall, as bad as it is to see this happening again, the response from actual Star Wars fans has been very, 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 very good to see. And the response to Lucasfilm. So I think
Yes,
maybe making some progress here. Maybe, hopefully.
All right, let's talk about Reva the character. Ben, we'll throw it right back to you. What did you think of the third sister?
Yeah, I mean, and again, it goes back to, there's still so many unanswered questions, but I think she is interesting that she is a character. She's a bad guy among other bad guys, and puts other bad guys in a weird kind of place, because you have these ruthless Jedi hunters that will do anything to hunt down Jedi, and one of their own is doing stuff, and they're like, whoa, look, we're evil. We're not that evil, okay? You can just calm down a little bit, Reva. It's that whole thing. That would be my only, like, from a purely like writing perspective of, like, what is it? What are they trying to accomplish here? Are they, because Reva kind of acts like what I would expect all Inquisitors to act, but I honestly understand that she's supposed to be quote unquote unhinged. She's supposed to be kind of out of line. But what made her like this? What is her driving focus, and why is she so obsessed with Obi-Wan? Those are all really interesting questions, but I think her whole drive and her placement in this story, I think, is really, really interesting. And, it's going to be interesting where this goes, because I think she obviously has a special relationship with Kenobi, and, she has a special relationship with the Jedi and where she came from. Probably she was probably one of those Padawans. So, like, what happened there? But yeah, I think Moses Ingram has been brilliant so far, bringing in some really great, just some softer moments, but also some, like, when she needs to hit it hard, she hits it out of the park in regards to, selling really deep emotions. So I appreciate where they're taking the character so far.
Yeah. Chris, what about you?
Yeah, it's really interesting trying to figure out their motivations. I mean, I'm now thinking back to Star Wars Rebels and trying to remember kind of what some of the motivations were for the Grand Inquisitor. I think ultimately Dooku's motivations are probably the best insight into the Inquisitor's motivations. This idea that, like, the Sith are inevitable, Emperor Palpatine is inevitable. So if you want to be on the right side of history, quote unquote, the powerful side that wins, the winning side, you have to work up the hierarchy of the Empire.
If you can't beat them, join them, sort of thing.
Yeah, that's really what it is. And so I think that's probably the default, until we find more information about perhaps some personal stuff with Reva and the Jedi, or Reva and Kenobi. I think the default assumption is that, she's just trying to work her way up the ranks, and she wants to capture Kenobi so that she can become the Grand Inquisitor and curry Vader's favor. Because, of course, given the relationship between Vader and Obi-Wan, and given what Obi-Wan did to Vader, it makes sense that he's probably going to be the number one prize for the Empire, at least until they find out about his children. So I think that's probably what's going on there, is, she sees this as a way for her to outdo herself. She's very low. It's made clear in the episodes. She's low on the pecking order right now. The other Inquisitors are ahead of her, and so she wants to leapfrog them, essentially.
Joel with his first post IHOP super chat, saying in Charles Soule's Vader comics, the Grand Inquisitor joined the Empire because Joe Costanu wouldn't let him into the restricted section of the archives. I vaguely remember that issue as well.
That's funny.
Classic Joe Costanu, always driving people to the dark side.
Are we sure he just didn't fail at that mini game of arranging the busts in the right spot?
Lego Star Wars driving some people to the dark side too. What I found really interesting about Reva and the Inquisitors in general is the relationship that exists between them, right? Because the Grand Inquisitor clearly sees himself as above Reva and above all Inquisitors, but he especially sees her as being beneath him, I think. And then you have the fifth brother, who very clearly is gunning for the Grand Inquisitor's job, as Reva is as well. But it's interesting to look at the different ways those characters are going after that job. The fifth brother seems to think the way to do it is to, for lack of a better term, suck up to the Grand Inquisitor. He's like trying to be the Grand Inquisitor's number 2 so that he can then take over, right? He's this is a dumb comparison. He's the Dwight Schrute to the Grand Inquisitor's Michael Scott, you know? And in the grand scheme of things, the Grand Inquisitor's an important guy to the Inquisitors, the same way Michael is important to the regional Scranton branch of Dunder Mifflin. But, you know, he's not going to take you all the way. Whereas Reva's way of, you know, getting to that top job is kind of by bypassing all of the other Inquisitors and going right for Vader. You know, sort of like Dwight does when he... I can't believe keeping this Office reference
this is
going.
Great.
This is like Dwight does when he meets up with Jan that one time and tries to convince.
See, now I really want Rainn Wilson to show up as an Inquisitor. Like that's something that needs to happen now.
You know, given the types of people that tend to show up in these shows, right, and all these Star Wars shows, like just in this one, we've had Kumail Nanjiani and Zach Braff, and then you add that to like the list of people that have shown up in The Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett. Rainn Wilson would be right at home in this.
And he's already done Star Trek. Just come on over to Star Wars. Come on, man.
Yeah, man. Live long and prosper. Anyways, but the point is, I think Reva has the right idea, which is if she wants to be the Grand Inquisitor, the way to do that is not to be buddy with the Grand Inquisitor. It's to go to his boss, which is Darth Vader, and to kind of convince Vader that she's the one who should be trusted with this sort of thing. She's the one who should be going after Kenobi, not the Grand Inquisitor, not the fifth brother. That's what she's after. And we'll see how that pays off for her. But it's paid off pretty well so far. And as we've talked about, there's the big question, right, of how does she know the truth? And I think you both have mentioned it. The theory is that she's one of the younglings in the opening scene and during Order 66. I want to ask you guys, and I'll throw this out for whoever wants to take it. We've seen Order 66 a lot lately, right? We saw it in 2019. We see it in Jedi Fallen Order. 2020, we see it in the Clone Wars. 2021, we see it in the Bad Batch. 2022, we've seen it twice now with the Book of Boba scene, with Grogu, and now this. Do you think we're running the risk at all of Order 66 scenes starting to lose their punch a little bit?
I mean, I said Batman's Bruce Wayne's parents getting killed scenes were losing their punch, and then they had it again in the last movie, and it still worked because there was a little bit of a twist on it. So it's such a massive event. I mean, you're talking about the extermination of like probably almost 10,000 people, like that are all very central to the Star Wars storylines before and after that event. So it makes sense that a lot of things are going to revolve around that. So, and the thing is too, there's a diversity of how we're seeing it, because you've got the video game cutscene version, you've got the animated version, you've got the live action version. It's not like we've seen it kind of in the same medium again and again and again. It's been a few times in each one. So, I mean, I think the only thing that we've yet to see is maybe in a movie again. We might see that.
I think it just goes along with the territory that it's this massive point in history, and it's a good sinking point for stories to like, okay, we know where we are. You see Order 66, you hear those words. Like, I know exactly what's going on in the galaxy right now. I know where Ahsoka is and Rex is and Obi-Wan and Anakin and all of these characters. I know exactly where they are. Ki-Adi-Mundi, all of them. I know what's happening to them at this point. And I think that's interesting because I think, Star Wars is a giant galaxy, and I think it's going to get more and more complicated as time goes on. And I think creators are going to want to use Order 66 as kind of that sinking point in the story to go like, okay, here's where we're coming off of, and then Obi-Wan kind of uses this. Okay, here's 10 years after that. I think, there's probably a danger if they do it too much, but at the same time, I don't think so. I think as long as it's done well, I think people are going to continue to enjoy and be a little sad when they see it, but also rush off to YouTube, create their little side by side comparison videos of all the moments happening at once. So I don't think we're going to get tired of it anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't think we are. I don't think we're at that point yet. Although I've seen where some people are starting to feel that way a little bit, and I laid out all the times we've seen it in the last 3 years, and so I can sort of see why 3-4 years. And so I can sort of see why people are starting to feel that way a little bit. But I personally am not there yet. Now, granted, we have coming up the rest of the year. We have Andor, we have Tales of the Jedi. We have Bad Batch, and then into next year, Mandalorian, Ahsoka, Visions, things like that.
The Ahsoka is really the only one where there's a spot where it could be.
Possibly Andor, possibly Tales of the Jedi. I could see it going in there as well.
Yeah.
But although, actually, you know what? Tatooine Rhapsody does have an Order 66 scene in Visions as well. That's another one.
That's right. I forgot about that.
So, I think I'm going to sort of keep an eye on those shows coming down the pipe, and if it continues to be a regular thing, then maybe I'll be more open to that conversation. But for the time being, I think each one has been unique. I think each one has been has set up things enough, has stood on its own enough that I'm not there yet. But I could see us getting there if we can continue to have these scenes on a yearly or more than yearly basis.
I think having it as a cold open was a fantastic choice. I thought it was great.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was definitely effective in this one for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Princess Leia. Little baby Leia.
It's only been an hour. We've only been talking for an hour.
I know, and we're just getting there. Chris, over to you. Your thoughts on Leia?
Oh, this is probably my favorite part of the show. Like, we knew there was going to be Kenobi, and we've seen Kenobi in various mediums. We've seen Ewan McGregor before, but we haven't seen much of his young Leia. I think there's a teenage Leia in Rebels, I think, in like one or two episodes. That's really all we've seen. So I thought this was absolutely brilliant, and pairing her with Obi-Wan reminded me a little bit of the relationship between Wolverine and the young girl with the superpowers and Logan. So I thought that was really cool. But the actress who plays her, this is the one instance where I remember the character name and not the actress rather than the other way around, like Dom. Absolutely brilliant. I mean, just perfect casting. I want to know how many kids they must have auditioned. It must have been hundreds or thousands. I mean, it must have been just as difficult as finding Rey and Daisy Ridley for The Force Awakens. I mean, it was so perfect. She's so perfect. There wasn't a moment where I didn't think that she was Leia. Just absolutely incredible. So she's the best part of this show, and in my opinion, and to outshine Ewan McGregor is hard. But like I feel like she steals every scene that she's in, and their interactions are incredible, and she has, she puts him in his place, which is incredible, just like she does with all the other characters when she shows up in A New Hope and beyond. I love this so much, and I can't wait to see more.
Yeah. Ben, your thoughts on Leia?
Yeah, I mean, like, this little actress is so great. Like I said, I don't know what extent they did to actually find her, but they cast her so brilliantly. And
they went back in time and got 10-year-old Carrie Fisher. I'm pretty convinced.
Not only that, but this is such a prequel inspired show, and you have so much talk of Padmé, and in the third episode, her real father, Anakin. And I think that whole parallels, I think you feel that it isn't just the show kind of, and Obi-Wan himself kind of like poking and prodding and saying like, oh wow, you're a lot like your mother, you're a lot like your father. It's, you feel it. You feel that watching. You could watch the Revenge of the Sith and then go into this, and you're like, wow, this little girl embodies their character. She embodies Bail and Breha. Like she is their kid as well. And I love the go back and forth with how she's taken a page out of Bail's book too, and being this kind of maverick and a little rebellious and whatever else. I love that. And the moments that she has with Jimmy Smits are adorable and brilliant and so good. And I think it is, just looking back, it is interesting how brilliant it is to bring her into the show, something that I don't think any of us really, like, we saw this coming. We heard the rumors. Okay, Leia's going to be a show. Okay, that's kind of a left turn, but how much is she going to play in this show? It makes so much sense to put her in this show because we have this implied history of Obi-Wan servicing Luke, him protecting Luke, but they hang out together. Excuse me. They interact so much that there's only so much you can do writing wise to have whole scenes, like put Luke in the position of Leia in this show. How do you work with that as a writer and make it make sense? Because you get this sense in A New Hope that Luke has met Ben Kenobi before, but they're not like BFFs. They're not friends necessarily. And so it's more interesting to go back to the drawing board and go like, okay, let's put Obi-Wan and Leia, two characters who have been connected so much, but have never shared screen time together, hardly at all, and have never even talked about each other really that much. The biggest evidence you have is General Kenobi, years ago, you served my father in the Clone Wars, and then it's Ben Kenobi, where is he? That's it. That's the extent of Obi-Wan and Leia's relationship, and taking that and expanding on it, and then having those really tender moments, especially in the third episode, where Leia is smart. She starts figuring out, are you my real father? Did you know my real thing? She knows what's going on, and Obi-Wan kind of being very honest with her. So sweet and so accepted, I think, in regards to really, I love where they're taking this, and something I think we've been dying to see for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And it adds a little context to why she's so willing to listen to Luke as soon as he says, I'm here with Ben Kenobi. It adds that context. It's terrific. And I can echo what the two of you have said. The casting, Vivian Lyra Blair has just been incredible in the role. She's done so well with it. She's captured the spirit, the rebelliousness, the fact she cares so deeply, but she also wants to have fun. What a wonderful bit of casting and a wonderful decision. And I'll give credit where credit is due. Again, to another old friend of ours, Ty Nelson. I remember years ago when we were talking about the Obi-Wan Kenobi movie. We'll go all the way back to that. I was saying Obi-Wan can't leave Tatooine. It's unacceptable. I won't like it if he does. And I was basically saying there's nothing more important than his mission with Luke. What could possibly be more important? And Ty said, "What if something happens to Leia?" And there it is.
Yep.
That's it. That's what it needed. That's how it's done. But I love the scenes with her on Alderaan where she has to confront her like snooty cousin, which that kid
great.
can go jump in a lake. As far as I'm concerned, like I love the Leia. She's thanking her droids. She pushes back against this cousin who is trying to say you're not a real Organa, and all of these scenes, and you see kind of the and this is something we'll talk about a little bit later, but we see kind of the sort of the friendly faces of the Empire in this, right? We think about the Empire, we think about, big scary people getting in your face. But the people who make the Empire work are people like Leia's cousins and her uncle. You know? The ones who are willing to look down on anybody that isn't them. They're willing to look the other way as long as their pockets are being lined. There's that great scene with Bale and I guess his brother-in-law, I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
And the uncle is saying, "Yeah, it's great that the Empire's here now that they're lining our pockets." And Bale's like, "What about slavery?" And the guy's like, "I didn't come here to talk about slavery." It's like,
oh man,
you know, it's like, hey, wait. It's like, as long as I'm getting rich, I'm on board with it. And there's another character that, you know, kind of puts a friendly face on the Empire that we'll talk about later, but it sort of shows you how this big evil machine was able to operate for as long as it did. But yeah, I love the way Leia, she picks up on the fact that Ben Kenobi isn't telling her the truth. She picks up on the fact that, you know, maybe she shouldn't trust him, right? You know, we all trust Obi-Wan. We know who Obi-Wan is. We know he's a good guy, but she has no reason to trust him. How is he any different from Flea or any of the other people that are you know, trying to pick her up, right? How is that any different? So I think this portrayal of Leia has been terrific. You know, she's got her flaws like all the characters do. You know, she's a little too you know, she wants to go exploring, as all kids do, and that gets her into trouble. But you know, she's also very good at improv and is able to you know, it's Obi-Wan who screws up and nearly gets them caught by the stormtroopers. So yeah, whoever made this call to have Leia be at the center of this, it was a great way to set the story in motion and give the story an extra layer that it might have been missing. And I've also enjoyed the memes of you know, Bale saying, "One day this planet will look to you," and it's like, Alderaan doesn't have such a great future ahead for it. Let's talk about Leia's real father now, Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker. We only get half an episode or so of him, but I think he's worth talking about a little bit. And Ben, go first on this. What do you think of how this series has handled Vader thus far?
They go, you know, third episode, we get full on Vader, which is crazy. And I think they do him very well. He's not over the top. He's not flipping around. He's just freaking terrifying. And I think that says something to the character and how they're learning to portray him in this. And, you know, I think you see it again on Obi-Wan's face, this intense fear, this intense, oh my God, you know, I think it sells it more. I think it would have been a bit lessened if, like, we come into the series and he knew all about Vader. I think it's put on full display when Obi-Wan's having to catch up with all of us and saying, okay, Anakin has become this horrible monster. And it's just full on. Like, you see him and he's terrifying. He's like a horror villain. I think they managed to kind of capture that Rogue One-esque hallway energy and inject it more into this, the fact of, like, he is really a scary dude. And it's especially more scary when we know we're seeing him through Obi-Wan's eyes. We're seeing him through, like, this is a guy that I knew. This is my best friend, the guy that I said I loved. And now he's out to kill me and you roast me on hot coals, literally, like, crazy stuff. And, you know, I'm just incredible visuals we see with him, and just that there's a couple moments where all you could see is, like, his buttons on his chest and all this kind of stuff. And then also just the beginning of the episode where we see just him being put back together is horrific. So horrific. So yeah, it's incredible seeing him. And also, I think the voice is really well done. I think there's been just some debate online about if it's James Earl Jones, whether they use some kind of synthetic thing or maybe something in between, but I think it sounds really good.
Yeah, I think I took them at their word in the credits when it said James Earl Jones. I was like, oh, he's back. Okay. I hadn't considered that it might be a synthetic thing like they did with Luke in Mandalorian and Book of Boba. But if they did, well done. It's very good. Very good. Chris, your thoughts on Vader so far?
I like his voice. I think it's interesting having Hayden as Vader.
Okay.
Because he's not David Prowse.
Sure.
Like I can tell the difference between the two. And so while it makes sense, it is it's slightly jarring to me.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of getting used to that right now. And the thing that's really interesting is the way that this show is shot is very different than the rest of Star Wars. The cinematography, there's a lot of very modern and things. It reminds me again a lot more of Rogue One, the way Rogue One is shot. But for some reason, like the Vader scenes in Rogue One still seemed very similar to the way A New Hope was shot. It was some of the kind of Scarif stuff that it really kind of diverged more. This time I felt like we were seeing Vader but shot in a different way, and it almost felt like a fan film to me. Like, not necessarily because of the quality being bad. As we all know, some fan films are better quality than some Star Wars. It just felt different, like it was a fan film. So it kind of took me out of it a little bit, honestly. So that was one of the kind of larger flaws that I've had with the series so far. And it's again, I've only seen that episode once. So I'm going to have to watch it again to really pinpoint more specific details of like why it looks different to me. But like, I just remember watching it the whole time and thinking like, wow, I feel like I'm watching a fan film. Like that's the reaction that I had to a lot of the Vader stuff, especially on the planet once he's down there.
Interesting.
I will admit also that not every shot, but some of the shots in there, you can't really put your finger on it, but there is some shots in there when they're fighting, and it looks really good. It's clearly they're doing it with like real practical lightsabers, that the light is shining on them, all this kind of stuff. It looks a little. It's like this is shot a little differently. This is not what you'd see in a Star Wars movie. It feels more Star Wars TV to me. It doesn't look bad. It's just not up to the quality I would expect.
Here's what I think it is. Vader's too shiny. Things are reflecting.
Maybe.
Things are reflecting off of him a lot more than they have in the past.
You're right.
And I think some of that might actually, you guys have hit on it, that it's the way they shot it, because when they shot the originals, the prequel and the prequels, right, for the lightsabers, they just used sticks.
Yep.
And they put the effects in later.
Yep.
It was for the sequels that they started basically using, EFX lightsabers with the light up blades, which on a human face really adds something to the scene. When you see Daisy Ridley with her lightsaber in the forest in The Force Awakens, you can tell there's a blue glowing thing right in front of her. And, for Kylo Ren, perhaps, I think maybe there's a reason why we always had Kylo Ren fighting without his helmet on, right? I don't think Kylo ever duels with his helmet on. Because again, that red right on Adam's face looked great. But I wonder if, because we're so used to seeing Vader where the effect is completely added afterwards.
Yeah.
That having it there physically in the moment is maybe making Vader shine a little bit more than he used to. And it's standing out a little bit to folks.
And honestly, having the FX lightsabers, like I thought they worked really well in the sequels, but for some reason, like doing that in the volume is not. It doesn't work the same way. Like I don't really. You can tell that they're props that have effects on them. They don't look like lasers to me as much as they have in the rest of Star Wars, and even for some reason in the sequels, there's something off, and that makes it feel kind of fan filmy too. It just feels a little bit off.
Okay.
And I will
fair.
just a general criticism of, like, it's a very fan film location.
That too.
It's
That
not
too.
like, oh, we're over a volcano. No, we're in a quarry. We're clearly in someone's backyard.
Yeah.
Like, it's not bad. Like, it fits with the episode. It fits with the environment that we're in. That we're, they're not going to step out the back and there's a volcano there. Like, obviously that's not going to happen. But it is like, it's just two dudes running around a quarry, and then Vader sneaking up on him, even though he can breathe. Breathes really loudly.
Vader holds his breath. He's been doing that since Empire Strikes Back. There's no reason Luke should not hear anything in that hallway till the lightsaber swings down on him. He's holding his breath.
And the whole way it plays out, like, plot wise, I have almost no complaints. And I feel like petty, like, bringing this out and going, I'm not sure how I quite feel about that, because I've seen people like go nuts, going like, oh my god, it's amazing. I'm like, yeah, it is amazing. There's just something kind of off with it. I love the execution of it. I love the way it's done. I love the way that, Obi-Wan is on the run. He's not up to the task, and he gets freaking burned. And Vader's like, you're going to get a taste of your own medicine. And, it's good stuff. But, at the end of the day, it's just like, this doesn't, like, I compare it to, we see it's worsened by the fact that this show literally has, like, scenes from the movies intercut with scenes from this thing. It kind of shows, okay, this is what a Star Wars movie looks like, and then it's kind of like, oh, here's what a Star Wars TV looks like. I feel like Star Wars TV at its best kind of blurs the lines and, makes you think, oh, this could be in a movie.
Yeah. I will say one thing, you guys have mentioned, like, the locations and the production and that sort of thing. One thing I've wondered about this show is how much of it is shot in the volume versus how much of it is shot on location or on sets in a backlot. Because I've felt like this show has, to me, it's felt like it's done more on location. Because there's been some, especially in the second and third episode, it's felt, in the first and third episodes, it's felt like there's been Leia in the forest. Felt like they went out to a real actual forest. I suspect those scenes of Obi-Wan and Leia walking on the planet in the third episode, that looked like that was shot somewhere out there in Southern California. I've liked that, and I've liked that. I felt Tatooine felt like a lot of it was shot on a backlot. Granted, we'd seen some production of those sets being built on a backlot, and I've been glad to say I haven't been able to spot where the set ends and the volume begins in this show, which I can't say for Book of Boba Fett. Book of Boba Fett, there were a few places where I'm like, oh, so there's the floor and there's the volume. Gotcha. With this one, I felt like, by and large, I've really appreciated the production design and the way that they've shot it. I feel like they've used all the different tools to their as effectively as they could, whether that's a little bit of green screen here and there, some backlot locations, some on-location locations, and some sets built within the volume. I think they've done a very nice job of merging all of the filmmaking techniques in this series. I did notice that Vader seemed a little shinier, but that wasn't an issue for me. But I agree. I will admit I at least noticed it. I noticed something was a little different about old Darthy. And it wasn't just that his helmet came down all in one piece instead of in two pieces.
That did weird me out a little bit. I'm like, the face mask goes first and then the helmet. Come on.
Oh, man.
I don't know.
And then it comes off that way too. Luke doesn't just pull it off. Come on.
That shot of it all being lowered down in one piece was pretty great, though. I
can't complain because it's like you see his face and I'm like, okay, that's good stuff.
Yeah. And speaking of Hayden, I don't know how much Hayden was in the suit. I know in the credits there is a body double credited and a stunt double credited. So, I think Hayden did some stuff, but not all of it. Episode 3, and that one little moment where Obi-Wan looks into the distance and he thinks he sees Anakin, really has me hungering for some Episode 3 era Anakin stuff. I'm looking for some Anakin out of the suit, not looking like a baked potato in the next couple of episodes, whether that's a flashback or a vision or something else. But it has me hungering for Hayden Christensen classic.
I'm hoping they'll do kind of stereotypical. I don't want to say stereotypical in a bad way, but like, you know, we do have kind of a precedent. Moon Knight just did it a few weeks ago of having kind of the second to the last episode is kind of your reflection back, and you get a bunch of like interconnected flashbacks to earlier scenes and earlier stuff with their characters to kind of set up for the finale. I feel like maybe Obi-Wan Kenobi is headed that way.
I also hope we can get some scenes with Anakin and Obi-Wan, or Vader and Obi-Wan, I should say, where they're not fighting necessarily. I want them to sit down and talk, or you know, it's just something where the lightsabers aren't swinging at each other's throats every now and again. One of them could capture the other one. Something can go down. Because just what little we did get of dialogue between the two of them was fantastic, and I would just love to see more of it. You know, Obi-Wan says, "What have you become?" to Anakin, and Vader says, "I am what you made me."
I mean, how good is The Last Jedi when Rey and Kylo are just forced to talk to each other? They can't fight each other. They can't get away from each other. They're just like, crap. I hate your guts, but I've got to talk to you now. Crap. Like that whole scenario with the Force vision. And maybe they'll bring that back. I'm just saying, maybe some kind of Force connection thing, maybe.
When I was still in my mode of thinking Obi-Wan shouldn't leave Tatooine at all, that was my pitch for how you could get around that and still have them fight, was to do a Force Connect kind of thing. We'll see. I'm stoked to see where this goes in episodes 4, 5, 6, and as Ewan McGregor suggested, 7, 8, 9, and 10.
The sequels to the prequels. Let's go.
Yeah. Let's I want to run through some characters that we haven't talked a ton about, but kind of go through them rapid fire style.
Quinlan Voss, he better be in this show. You cannot mention him and have him not be in this show. Goodness.
I was waiting for you. I was waiting for you to bring that one up.
Yep.
We had to get to that one because, of course,
yes.
As soon as that happened, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to hear what Chris thinks about this.
I'm so glad he's still alive 10 years later.
He's
That's
alive.
Freaking awesome. He better be in something.
Yeah, even if he doesn't show up in this, he could show up in something
The
else.
real big question is, are they going to bring Doug Wrangler back, or are they going to recast?
I think they're going to recast.
Poor Doug.
Doug might have done that to himself.
Yeah, I might have heard
It
that
just
something.
makes so much sense. Quinlan Voss's job literally was doing deep undercover stuff for the Jedi Order. He would be like the one Jedi you would expect to survive Order 66. Come on.
Heck yeah.
And he basically leaves a message behind that says, "This is the way." Was basically the subtext to what he said. But yeah, a great little nod, and I'm sure it means Quinlan is out there for Andor or Ahsoka,
Jedi Fallen Order 2,
Jedi Fallen Order 2, Jedi Survivor, is that what it's called? I can't remember.
I think so, yeah.
I'll be honest. So there was so much happening that weekend. I still haven't watched that trailer.
Oh no. It's really good. The CGI is really good.
No idea what goes on in there. All right. So we talked Quinlan Voss. The Grand Inquisitor. Any thoughts on Grand Inquisitor, the recast, Rupert Friend?
What the heck? That's my thoughts. Like, how do you pretend that he's dead when we all know he's not dead? This is one of the strangest things about this show, and one of the reasons why I feel like it's flawed is they're playing it off like he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she quote unquote kills him. Then in the next episode, Vader's talking about how she's gonna replace him if he can catch Kenobi. It's like if you hadn't seen Rebels, you'd think this guy is dead. I'm so freaking confused. Why are they doing this like this?
Well, I think it's a little bit of an acknowledgement that not everybody has seen Rebels. So for a good portion of the audience, it'll be a surprise when he comes back. I think I have a feeling that the Grand Inquisitor will be tied to Reva's fate one way or another, and that his return might be the end of her. Not saying that's necessarily how I want it to go, but I could see that being the case. But I will say, I think Rupert Friend's been terrific as the Grand Inquisitor. I was a little skeptical because I didn't think anybody could do it better than Jason Isaacs. But I think he's done a real good job, and he's been an excellent presence in the series. And I like that him and the fifth brother have kind of been trying to go about things in a way where their first choice isn't to whip out their lightsaber and start chopping off hands the way it is for Reva. I like that they're, doing a little bit of like trying to win hearts and minds stuff. Even though we know they're bad dudes, and ultimately they'll cut
Are they,
head off.
or they just have different ways of manipulating people? Good cop, bad cop.
That's
what I think is going. That's what I think is going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like it.
I don't think that which brother is it? Fifth, seventh, eighth. The fifth. I don't think the fifth brother cares about his people. I think he just has different ways of motivating them.
Well, it's interesting. The good cop, bad cop idea with Reva kind of being the bad cop. I can see that in the scenes where they're actually like talking to people. But even when they step away, fifth brother and the Grand Inquisitor are like, "Hey."
Well, I'm not. I'm not saying that it's the planned good cop, bad cop. I'm saying they just have different approaches, but both of them are manipulating, just like a good cop manipulates. Like you want to.
Gotcha,
I mean, it's that classic scene when you have the cold-blooded serial killer in the interrogation chair. And you're like, "Hey, we're gonna go down to Arby's. What would you like?" That's pretty cool weapons collection you have there. Like that's kind of what's going on there, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of which, we're going through the characters rapid fire style. The fifth brother. Any thoughts on him? Ben, we'll go to you for maybe this one.
Yeah, I think overall, he's like one of the best translations. He looks about the way he did in Rebels and sounds about the way he did in Rebels. And I like the depth that they're giving him. He really didn't have a lot to do in Rebels. He was always playing second fiddle to the second sister at that point, maybe. I can't remember. I can't keep them all straight, okay? They're all different numbers.
The seventh sister.
Seventh sister. He was playing second fiddle to the seventh sister. And he didn't have a whole lot to do. So I'm glad here he's kind of vying for more power. And I love that just further evidence of like how the dark side is. Just like they can't even in this thing, they're subservient to Lord Vader, but ultimately they're gonna try to backstab each other to the top. They're never happy. They're always gonna be greedy no matter what.
I want to know how the Inquisitor numbering thing works. Like, because I would have thought the third sister outranks the fifth brother. And yet, the fifth brother claims that he's next in line for being the Grand Inquisitor.
So that makes sense. There's more brothers and sisters.
But he's the fifth. Wouldn't it be like the second or the first brother?
The first and the second and the third brother are probably dead.
But
as there's the fourth.
Okay.
Unless the numbers just don't mean anything at all, and it's just like they're just like it's when they come in or whatever else, and they're given ranks based on their power levels, whatever else. I don't know. And also the Grand Inquisitor may be dead. There may be another second Powan Grand Inquisitor. I don't freaking know what's going on.
I mean,
Grand Inquisitor's coming back. It's coming back. There was a dude walking around at Celebration who was cosplaying as the Grand Inquisitor, and from Friday onward, he had 2 Band-Aids over his stomach. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen.
Oh, that's
but,
good.
Yeah, I would like the numbering thing explained to me, because I don't understand how fifth outranks third.
Again, I think it's because
But
the brothers and the sisters have their own numbering systems, and they're off. They're not equal, like on the same. You know, if it's not 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, they're staggered.
Maybe it's possible. Anything's possible.
Well, one thing's for sure, they are not sitting around singing "We Are Family."
Yeah, maybe they'll take the Grand Inquisitor to see the mods. There
you go.
That makes
robot
sense.
stomach. Yeah.
Is there literally any wound in the galaxy far, far away you can't fully recover from? Like, come on.
No.
Burned alive in a volcano, losing all your limbs, gut.
Yeah. If you've died,
getting blown up in the Death Star too, after falling down a shaft.
If you die in the Star Wars galaxy, it's your own fault. Somebody could have saved you somehow.
Your body is thrown down a 1,000-mile shaft, and your body explodes, and you still come back as a clone. Like, come on, nothing stops anybody.
Yeah, exactly. All right, continuing down the list. I'm sort of surprised we haven't talked more about him. Bail Organa. Thoughts on Bail in this?
Great. He's always on that short list of underutilized Star Wars characters, and this is why. Like, I thought every scene he was in carried so much weight. You know, he's just such a fantastic character in Star Wars, and you know, we still have not seen enough of him to fully appreciate the part of him that is in Leia that ultimately saves the galaxy.
Mm-hmm. Ben?
Yeah, I think this just further shows like how great parents, like the foster parents of the Skywalker twins were. Like, you know, obviously Owen and Beru, we still haven't seen a whole lot of them, but like they raised a good kid and they really loved that kid. And then here we see Bail finally seeing him being a father to Leia. And, you know, I think it goes back to that theme of adoption, that theme of, you know, why wouldn't Leia be totally okay with Rey taking the Skywalker name when she herself took the name of another family that took her in? Like, why would that not work? Why would she not be okay with that? So, you know, I love that and I love that she's wrestling with this and fully aware of, like, this isn't a secret for her. She knows, like, she's like wondering who her real parents were, but simultaneously loves and is loved by the parent she's being raised by. And Bail assuring her that, look, you're Organa. You are one of us more so than anyone. So, you know, I love their interactions were just great. Again, great casting. And great casting by George for crying out, like, getting Jimmy Smits and having him stay and play this character so many times. Just incredible.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I hope he can show up in Andor as well. Hope he just keeps showing up.
He should have been on the 20th anniversary Attack of the Clones panel, man.
That would have been great. But yeah, the scene between him and Leia was something I've always wanted to see, and like both of you have said, it's just fantastic. It's just fantastic. You see the way this guy raised this girl and how she got to where she is.
It's a wonderful payoff. I was thinking back to the scene in Rogue One where he says, I would trust her with my life. It's a great extension of that, and seeing how their relationship, that Bail and Leia relationship is really, really special and deep.
Absolutely. Along that same wavelength, Bria Organa, his wife, Leia's adopted mother. Thoughts on her?
Yeah, she's great as well. Like, and it's great to see more of her character finally, since we barely caught a glimpse of her in Revenge of the Sith. And I'm still kind of sad that we haven't seen more of Aunt Beru, but I think it's very important, you know, that we see the mothers of the twins, the adopted mothers of the twins. So I hope we see more of Beru as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, and props to Simeon Kessel, who is playing the character the first time. She's wonderful. Like, and she embodies the character. Obviously, it sucks when recasts happen, but I think she's embodied the character very, very well. And I hope, again, I hope she's one that can come back and continue to play her for years to come.
Yeah, I love the scene where Leia pranks her at the beginning. I love that's our
great.
that's our
So
introduction to Leia, is that
I
she's
love it.
pranking her mom, and then Bria has to go and find her in the woods. It's pretty fantastic. And then when Leia does the like fake apology, and she gives her mom a hug so she can steal Lola from her.
That's so great.
I loved it. She had that, like, she was patient, but you could tell she was annoyed with her daughter, but then she still loved her. Like, it was such beautiful scenes. Beautiful scenes between those two. The bounty hunter crew, the whole bounty hunter crew that kidnaps Leia, led by Flea. I know he has a character name, but I'm not calling him that. What do we think? What do we think of them? Ben's just kind of shrugging. Nobody's got a real strong opinion on
that. I didn't know who Flea was before this. Like, people are talking about, oh my God, Flea, this is taking me out. I'm like, I don't know who that guy is. Like, he seemed kind of familiar to me, but so it did take me out of it. And he's decent enough actor, I guess. It's kind of in the same vein. Let's just grab a random person and make them a major player in this show.
Didn't we have a Deveronian in one of the trailers, or was that another show? There's so many Star Wars shows now. I don't remember which one had the Deveronian in the trailers.
Yeah, I can't remember.
It was either that or it was Andor, but I feel like it was Kenobi, because it's like I would have rather it be a Deveronian. That would have been really cool, and more specifically, the Deveronian Vilmer Grark. And then if you had Vilmer Grark and you mentioned Quinlan Voss, then you're gonna have Quinlan Voss would come in and rescue Leia from Vilmer Grark, and then basically it's the Republic comics in live action, and then that would be the best thing ever. And where's Aayla Secura's ghost?
It's a good question. Good question.
Now, oh my gosh, Quinlan Voss being haunted about losing Aayla. Ooh.
There's a show. There's a show that could be out there. Maybe not a story for this show, but maybe a story for its own show.
And a flashback to Dark Disciple with live action Asajj Ventress.
That would be cool. That would be cool.
We should have been at this story meeting 10 years ago.
Maybe. I'm just excited because that Flea is in this, because the Red Hot Chili Peppers are coming to Toronto in August, and I'm gonna have to work the concert, so I'll just be there going, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and all my coworkers will be like, "What is wrong with you? This is a concert." I'll be like, "No, he was in Star Wars.
You son of a! You kidnapped Leia! How dare you!"
Yeah. Yeah, I'll make a sign. I'll show up with a sign, and just be like, "How dare you!" And then you'll all find out the next week on the show how I lost my job. Anyway, Nari, Benny Safdie's Jedi. We kind of mentioned him earlier. Poor Nari. We hardly knew ye. I felt bad for this character. He there's a story here that is kind of it's sort of a prologue to this, and maybe it could be told in a comic book or something someday, of this guy tracking down Obi-Wan Kenobi and finding him, only to have him tell him to go away.
It's tough.
I think that this is one of those characters in Star Wars where it's clear that there's a story there. There just wasn't time for it in this one, or that this wasn't the story for it. But it shows the richness of this galaxy and the richness of these characters, that perhaps one day we could have that story told.
Yeah.
I suspect you guys will have something to say about this one. The homeless veteran clone trooper on Dayu. Yes. What do we think?
Yeah, I mean, that was a really sad scene. It was great to have Tem in the show, and I hope it's foreshadowing more Tem in the show. But it's texture. I mean, it adds a lot of depth to the galaxy to see kind of where the clones are at now. especially in live action. So I think that was brilliant to add it. Good world building.
We've always had these different ideas of how you could fit Tim into different eras, and obviously, having him show up as Captain Rex or Cody or whatever else would have been really cool. I'm still hoping for those, but having this just small, nameless clone show up and kind of as a representation of what's become of the clone army, that we saw Rex and and Wolf and all those guys, and they were doing pretty good. They're out there fishing. They were making it okay. The fact is that the rest of the clone army probably didn't fare so well, and just the idea, and also a reflection of our own universe, how we have sometimes neglected our own veterans in the real world. The more you think about it, the more like it is very, very depressing. But also just great to see Tim, especially in the same week when he was just absolutely killing it on every stage he went on Celebration. He was just killing it, and he couldn't talk about his cameo in Obi-Wan Kenobi. Come on.
Yeah, absolutely. You hit on a couple of things there. Obviously, the real world commentary on how our societies treat veterans. That some obscenely high percentage of all homeless people are veterans in the U.S. And then this is something I feel like we talked a lot about in relation to the Bad Batch, which is what happens to the clones when the war is over. There was that great line in the Clone Wars, someday this war is going to end, then what? And now we're left sort of with this, we're left seeing what happens for some of these clones. Like you said, Ben, some of them get to retire and go fishing, but some of them wind up like this guy on the street. And it's a tragic moment, right? We opened the show with Order 66. And so much of the show is about the Jedi and their life post Order 66. But this moment here is a little reminder that things didn't work out so well for the clones either. They get cast aside, and that's something we're seeing over the course of season 1 of the Bad Batches, the clones slowly being cast aside. And this is perhaps a vision into the future for some of the characters that we have met on Bad Batch or in the Clone Wars or will meet going forward in season 2 or beyond. So, tragic moment. Tragic moment. Haja Estri, the fake Jedi, Kumail Nanjiani. Love this guy. Love this guy. Not just because he's Kumail, but because he's a great character. Perfect casting. I love that, for as much as he was a scoundrel and a rat, he was a scoundrel and a rat with a heart of gold. Very much in the tradition of Han Solo and other scoundrels with hearts of gold like Lando that we've seen through the years in Star Wars. That I love that even though he was kind of scamming people, he was helping them, and that in the end, he sacrificed himself to we think. Presumably to save Obi-Wan. Great character, great addition to the show. I don't know who came up with that, but it was brilliant.
Yeah, I love the fact that like the Empire is hunting Jedi, but they seem to have no problem with a guy faking being a Jedi, just scamming people. Because like Reva's like, get out of my way. Like doesn't have any time for it. She only sees interest in him when she realizes he's seen Obi-Wan. But that character, man, I really hope he comes back. And his little turn towards things, very, very heartwarming, very, very good. Just his quips and everything like that. He's Kumail all over the place, but so good to have that little character and him using, because you see him, he's using magnets and he's closing doors and his whole routine with the Jedi mind trick. I'm inside your mind now.
I love that everything he like pretends to do then happens to him when Reva gets a hold of him. He's using the Force to close doors. She slams him up against the wall. He says, "I'm doing the Jedi mind trick." She does the scary hand. Yeah, she does the scary hand thing that Kylo and Maul and everybody has done in the past. It's pretty great. Love that character. Great addition to the show. So much needed levity as well. Freck. Let's talk about Freck, the alien in episode 3, voiced by Zach Braff. What I'll say about him, and this is what I was talking about earlier with the friendly face of the Empire, is we want to think of all of the Imperial supporters, all the people who would side with the Empire, as being awful people who will like spit in your face and won't help you when you're down and out. But the reason the Empire survives is as much because of people like Freck as it is because of people like, let's say, Tarkin or some of the other Imperial officers. Because Freck seems like a genuinely nice guy. He picks those two up, virtually no questions asked. He's given the stormtroopers a ride. But he also kind of turns them in. He kind of rats them out. And, he suggests that the troopers look at him. So he's kind of the friendly, smiling face of your average Imperial citizen. And it's why, you can't really trust anybody in the Empire. That's something we've talked about, perhaps, or we've seen in books, that there are, Imperial informants out there who, will tell the Empire if anything looks suspicious. This is the first time we've seen it with a character who, from all appearances, should be a perfectly nice dude that you can trust to give you a ride in the back of his truck. But in reality, if he so much as thinks something weird is going on, he's taking you right to the stormtroopers and he's suggesting that they have a look.
So this character, he reminds me of the character Tom Parsons from 1984, which is the guy who is always in support of Big Brother and the party, and then he ends up having a tragic end because his daughter hears him speaking out against Big Brother in his sleep and reports him, and he ends up getting in trouble. And it's kind of like a metaphor or a parable of this idea that if you are serving a power, even if you're a good person, if that power is bad, you're still probably going to get screwed over. So I have a feeling that at some point, Zach Braff, his character will probably meet not a great of an end for the side he's chosen.
Mm-hmm. Well, perhaps even just if an Imperial officer says, "Hey, you were transporting a Jedi,"
right?
Whether he knew it or not.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't suspect we'll see Freck again. I think that's it for Zach Braff's appearances on the show. I think Obi-Wan knocked him out pretty good, but you never know. He may pop up again. All right, final name on my list, Tala Durth. This is Indira Varma's character, the Imperial officer. Perhaps
all the rumors were true.
Perhaps kind of the opposite of Freck in a sense. She pops up with that Imperial officer uniform. You think we can't trust her. Turns out she's one of the Imperials that's seen the light and now wants to help out. Wants to do the right thing.
This was so cool. It reminded me of the historical Underground Railroad.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what I thought was kind of being referenced and sourced in that concept of kind of ferrying the Jedi away to safety through the Imperial lines. So, but yeah, her character really, really fantastic. That whole concept was one of the better ones in that episode that I liked.
Mm-hmm. Ben?
Yeah, it definitely it lends itself to like this is 10 years on. Of course, there would be literally an underground railroad for ferrying people that Jedi wouldn't be involved, all this kind of stuff. And the fact that Obi-Wan has been so singular focused on his mission that he's missed out on this stuff. That he even questions it. He even asks her, he's like, "Why do this? Why are you risking it all for this?" And she kind of like opens up to him and is like, "Hey, I did join up to the Empire willingly, and I made some mistakes." And he kind of, I don't know, kind of a little bit of, connection there in regards to like, he says, yeah, we all did. We all made mistakes. And I like that a lot. I like that her character is kind of this point of view on, and in the same episode, we get this loyal citizen in Freck. Good old, he's just this guy just driving a truck, and he's a nice guy. But he is in lockstep with everyone and the Empire and this evil Empire. He's blind to it because he hasn't been affected by it. Maybe the Empire's treated him good. And now we have the opposite side of the coin of someone who is in the Empire, who is standing up to it and saying no and working against it any way they can and using their power. That's really good storytelling, I think.
Absolutely. A great character. I think Indira Varma's just done a fantastic job with that role.
Also, very, very terrified for her because then there was the whole there is some confusing stuff, and someone actually reached out to us on social media. It was like, what's going on with the tunnels? Like, so she goes down the tunnel, and then Reva comes after them. I think we're meant to believe, meant to be believed that there's multiple tunnels and they're all diverging or whatever else. But like when Reva enters it and Indira Varma goes back, I'm like, oh no, that she's gonna kill her and all this kind of stuff. And I was very worried about that. I was glad that she survived and helped Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, how did Reva get over there? It's a bit wacky, but still, I'm hoping we see more of that character.
Yeah, I didn't really think of that, but it is a little bit odd that Reva goes into the tunnels and then somehow winds up in front of them. That is a little odd there.
I mean, she has the Force, and you can always go the Force, hand wave it away. You know, she can
Jedi mind trick it away.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about the tunnels. Yeah. But I'm also worried for that character, given that she took a couple of shots at Darth Vader, and few people will survive that.
It's true.
Few people will survive that. So that is everything I've got. But as always, I will throw it open to the floor for anybody that wants to bring up anything else that we may have missed in our discussion thus far about parts 1, 2, and 3 of Obi-Wan Kenobi before we hit final thoughts and scores out of 10.
I would say that aside from like the characters, because I brought up most of my points about the things that I like versus disliked when we were talking about the characters specifically, because they're all related to the characters. I would say some of the other elements too is the music is good at points. I love the theme that John Williams composed for Kenobi, but I'm not 100% sold on the scoring for the rest of the show. I don't find it very memorable yet. Maybe it'll work my way into my head more, but I know like I mean, after just hearing the we got very fortunate and were able to hear the Kenobi theme early because we were at Celebration, and that got stuck in that was playing in my head like the day later. Like, it's a very memorable thing, but the rest of it I'm not 100% sold on yet. And I'm definitely not sold completely on like the music that was along with the confrontation between Kenobi and Vader. And I felt that's one of the reasons why that felt off to me, in addition to the way that it was shot and how Vader's suit was and how the lightsabers were. Like having them fight without Battle of the Heroes was a little odd to me. I felt like there needed to be something kind of really epic there, and it just felt kind of anticlimactic to me after, for their first confrontation after all this time, after 10 years. I just felt like perhaps we assume they're probably going to meet up again. Maybe that's going to be more epic, but the way that they've done it to have them meet so early in the series, I don't know if it's the best pacing and emotionally the best choice. And then pacing wise in general, I thought the first episode was really great because it was all like introducing things, and I thought the pacing of that was good. I did kind of find it a little jarring that they kind of went through Obi-Wan's life routine several times, and they almost shot for shot had the repeat of, oh, he's gonna go cut the little piece of meat off and then he's gonna feed it to his EOP or whatever that is, and like, it was like, it was a little bit repetitive, but it still was good because it was introducing things, and the second episode too was mostly introductory. But then the third episode, I felt like, it did slow down in the middle. It did really slow down middle to the end, and until you really got into Vader coming in, I did feel like it was a middle of a season episode type feel, rather than the next chapter in a limited series type feel to me. I felt like it was maybe a little bit too long of a runtime for the amount of story that was in the third episode, and in my opinion. So, but I love the cinematography of Alderaan. Every single shot on Alderaan, of Alderaan, absolutely incredible. It's so great to finally see this planet so much in live action. We've only gotten glimpses of it here and there in different mediums. So incredibly stunning, beautiful planet, and I hope we continue to see more of it in live action, because I just thought that the design of the city and the planet and how it merged with nature was just really, really cool science fiction, and gives kind of another side to Star Wars. We've gotten a lot of used universe side, so it was really cool seeing more of the designed aesthetic universe side that's more on the kind of the science fiction rather than the Western side of things. So that was freaking cool. And it was cool seeing the Alderaanian guards with their signature kind of helmets, like similar to what you would see on the Tantive 4. I thought that was a really cool design as well. So yeah, those are some of my positive and negative takeaways, in addition to just the specific character points.
Okay, that's fair. Ben, what about you? Anything you want to add before we hit final thoughts and score us out of 10?
No, I think we covered just about everything. I mean, like I said, I did have a few qualms. I felt like the second episode maybe drug a little bit too much. I felt like the pacing has been really good overall. I think Chris makes a good point about, kind of the whole establishment of his daily routine was maybe a little bit too strong, but I did enjoy that stuff. I enjoyed the first episode quite a lot. Probably my favorite. Maybe only to the third episode. I don't know. There's not a lot of episodes like say this is my favorite. There's only 3 of them. Chill out. But I mean, I don't have a whole lot of complaints. I kind of discussed what I was talking about earlier with the whole, Vader fan film as I even like saying that, but that's just how I feel. And but yeah, I mean, Leia looks great. I'm really curious about where the Grand Inquisitor is going to come in again, and a lot of questions. I mean, we are only halfway through, so still a lot. I do love the fact that the third episode is such a huge cliffhanger. Like they could have kind of continued with the whole like things happen and then we get back together and we kind of keep the status quo going. Nah, this is gonna be real dark and really messy, and Leia's over here and Reva has her, and Obi-Wan's all burnt up. He's got his own Mustafar story to talk about, and there's gonna be a lot happening. So I cannot wait for the fourth episode.
Yeah. I got nothing more to add, so I think we'll go over to final thoughts and scores out of 10. Oh no, sorry, I forgot one thing. Had another super chat from Joel. Says the fact that Leia knows who Ben, quote unquote, Kenobi is adds so much context to why she would name her son Ben. Years later, Kenobi adding context to the sequel trilogy.
That's a good point.
Love it. Great addition. Great little connection there.
Yeah.
All right, then with that, we'll hit final thoughts and scores out of 10 for this episode. As always, everybody who's listening live, feel free to throw in your scores out of 10, and this applies to everybody. You're welcome to score it either as 3 individual episodes or as one interconnected chunk. However you feel most comfortable scoring the episode. So, Ben, as always, over to you first. Final thoughts, score out of 10.
Yeah, like I said, I have really enjoyed all 3 episodes. And I think they're doing a stellar job. Obviously, apart from a few minor quibbles, I think this is becoming one of the best series we've seen on Disney Plus so far. And it's living up to the hype, I think. I've seen a lot of good, positive, despite a few unfortunate naysayers. I think, there's people that are apparently review bombing this thing on Rotten Tomatoes.
Who the hell has time for that?
Really?
Like, how? Honestly, if you're taking the time out of your day to review bomb, quote unquote, something, like that's that's pathetic. There's no words. There's no other word.
Just imagine you're a person living on planet Earth in the year 2022, and you are review bombing a space TV show because the company that ran it said racism was bad. Imagine it, guys.
God.
Imagine it. Oh my God. Yeah. So if you have a chance, go leave a good review of.
I think they've had to hide the audience score from Rotten Tomatoes.
Man.
I can't
really
see it.
Yeah, Rotten Tomatoes
get
just
rid of
on this giant bargaining chip. Like, we're just gonna, this big badge of honor, and we're either gonna ruin it or whatever. Back to I'm losing track here. The show's really good, guys. Okay, if you haven't watched it, I think it's like the most watched like TV show on Disney Plus ever. So I think everyone has seen it by now. But it's really, really good. I think I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10 because I really don't have that much to complain about right now. It's really stellar and giving me what I wanted really from this show and so much more.
Chris, what about you?
Yeah, I'm gonna give the first episode a 10 out of 10. I don't think they could have really done much better with an introduction to the series, and of course 10 out of 10 means it's like adding to the films for me. It's required viewing, and so that's great. The second episode I'll give a 9 out of 10 just because of some kind of confusing elements I would have done a little bit better, but still really on par with the quality of the films. Really, really, really great. I struggle. I really feel like I want to watch the third episode again because that's the one I've only seen once.
Same.
Before giving it like a hard rating. So I'll right now, I really want to give it a 7 out of 10. I feel like they had a lot of space to make it better. Like, I felt like that episode could have been better. I felt like it could have been paced better, and I felt like the confrontation could have been so much better. There's a lot of things I would have done differently there. It was a great concept for an episode, and there's still some great stuff in it, like in Deer of Armor. But like, I felt like they could have been done in a way that was more emotionally intense than it was.
Okay, fair enough. I don't know what score to give these episodes because my gut is to give it all a 10 out of 10. Just to give these first 3 episodes a 10 out of 10 because I have just adored every second of this. I've adored it on initial watch and I've adored it on rewatch. And so then I think, well, maybe I should give it a 9 out of 10 so that there's room for it to grow so that it could get better. And then I think, but really I feel more like it's 10 out of 10. Then I think maybe 9.5. And then I think, well, then I'm just, then I'm cheating. I'm not.
Leave space for the 11. That's what I do.
Yeah, leave space for the 11. So I'll just, you know what? I feel no shame in saying 10 out of 10 for these first 3 episodes. I've loved it so much. I think what they've done with Obi-Wan has been so interesting. Having him, I love it when they break down the characters. I love it when they take these characters we know as heroes and we force them to confront what they've gone through. This is a guy who's been sitting on Tatooine for 10 years with nothing to do but think about all of his failures in his life. Of course he's gonna become all broken and grubby and disgusting the way he is at the start of the episode. Of course those things are gonna happen to him. Of course he's gonna be out of practice. He's not gonna be really using the Force or his lightsaber. Of course he's gonna be short and quick and kind of snide with Leia. He's not doing it. He's not used to being around people, let alone children. I think they've done a wonderful job with Obi-Wan. I'm fascinated to see more of what they do with Vader. I loved Leia, loved Bail Organa and Bria Organa. I've loved Uncle Owen. I think the Inquisitors have been so fascinating. I'm all in on this show. I was obviously all in already. I'm all in for the rest of it. So I think just 10 out of 10 so far. Absolutely adored it. From the chat, we got Matthew Hardy saying episode 1 is an 8.5 out of 10. Episode 2 is also an 8.5 out of 10, while episode 3 gets the 9 out of 10. Joel gives the whole thing 9 out of 10 so far. Kenny gives episode 3 specifically an 8 out of 10. And Yanni gives all the episodes 8.5 out of 10 so far, but by the end of the series, he thinks they'll be a 9 or a 10 out of 10. Thinking it might grow, thinking it might get better as it goes along. But yeah. somehow we managed to talk about 3 episodes of Obi-Wan Kenobi there. I don't know how we did it, but we did it.
Whew.
And
The first episode took over an hour to talk about, so I was getting worried for a moment. I'm like, are we going to be at this for 4 hours? Like,
yeah.
But thankfully, a lot of the stuff was stuff that was just the whole 3 episodes that just happened to come up first in the first. So
well, it's like if you took any of the movies and broke them into 3 parts, if we talked about each of those parts on a different week, it would probably be a 2-hour show.
Yeah.
But if you put them all into one chunk as a movie, you probably still wind up with a 2-hour show because there's just
more efficient.
More efficient. Yeah. So that's I think that's how we can circle that square for this one. But I think with that, we can begin to wrap things up for this week.
Don't we usually do our final thoughts over the music?
Well, we did that when we were doing Radio Razor Crest and that sort of thing. But then for Book of Boba, because we would have news afterwards.
Oh,
we would have the music at the end. And I just wasn't sure what we wanted to do, so...
I was confused for a moment.
We'll have the music later. We'll do another outro.
And then next week, we're going to have, 1 episode plus, a whole days of Star Wars Celebration news.
Yep.
Yeah, I still don't know how we're going to do that. I still don't know.
We have way too much content to talk about, but we'll be here at least once per week talking about all of it, and we'll be back with another episode of the show, same time, same place, next Thursday. Make sure you tune in at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time Thursday over on the Star Wars Underworld YouTube channel, so you have the chance to chat with us. In the meantime, you can follow us at the SWU on social media. Dominic, thank you so much for hosting.
It was my pleasure as always. I'm just glad my voice held up because it's been a little bit wobbly ever since Celebration.
This is the first show, if you watch the video version, where you'll see every 5 minutes one of us that hits the cough button and it just goes around in a circle again and again. And I wonder why.
It's not that. I know that. It's not that.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks
somehow.
God it's not.
Yeah, somehow everybody, I think, that in our group survived the thing, but obviously, I'm sorry to anyone that did. I know some people on my friends list did get the thing. And,
the fact that I was fine before I went, that I came back with something. Coincidence? I think not.
Yeah. I like, at least for me, it's not it.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. But anyways, so it's great fun, even though we were all sort of struggling a little bit. But I'm glad we made it through. I've been so tired for the last couple of days. But and so I was worried that we might not be able to do a proper show this week because of that reason. But I'm glad we made it. I'm glad we made it through. I'm sad we're not still at Celebration. But this was pretty fun. It was actually good to be back, even though I wish we were back there. You know what I mean.
Star Wars Summer Camp 2024. Let's go. Lucasfilm, do it.
Make it happen. And for anybody that's missing Celebration, if you haven't listened to them yet, you can go back and listen to all 4 of our shows from Celebration. The IHOP show, the Disneyland show, the show Ben and I did just wandering around the floor, and then our day 4 meet under the TIE Fighter and yell at people who are around us to be on the show episode. So they're all out there. You can listen to them and enjoy if you haven't already. But Celebration was great. This has been great. Can't wait to do all this again next week and just keep the Celebration spirit rolling until April 2023 when we're all together in London again. And I do mean all of us. Ben.
Oh, that's right.
Ben.
I forgot. I feel now that...
Commit, Benjamin. Commit.
Feels like he's
it's
always
11 months. I've been home a day. Give me some time to rest.
I tried to get you to commit on Sunday when we were standing next to each other.
I don't want to have to be planning a celebration trip, okay? Just let me.
No. I will personally mail you to London. We will put you in a human-sized box.
As long as you're paying for the postage, that's fine with me. Okay?
And we will ship you to Kieran's house, and he will open up the box and be shocked to find you in there.
I'd be like, bloody hell! I got Sir Benjamin, the Star Wars gentleman, in me mail.
In me mail. Amazing.
I hope they have big mailboxes, life-size mailboxes over there.
Or it's gonna idle upward.
Yeah, maybe those telephone police boxes are actually mailboxes.
Yeah.
I understand the culture. At Dominic J25 is where you can follow. Yes, we need that photo bed in front of Big Ben. Thank you, Matthew Hardy. Thank you. That has to happen. Is it not celebration? Just that. If anything, just that. And then we can have Ben swollen.
Oh, right. It's a big clock, eh?
It's a big what?
A big clock, eh?
Okay. Big clock.
Look, if you heard something else there, that's your problem.
That's a clock. Okay. Anyway, it's past 11 for a lot of us.
Look, the British language and the accent is just you can you can hear a lot of things that aren't there.
Oh, dear.
Anyway. That's all, folks.
Yes. So at WJ25, Ben. Oh yeah, thank you for hosting, Ben. You haven't.
Oh,
even done
I
your
hosted
spiel.
this thing. Oh wow. Okay. Wow. This was fun. It's good to be back. Also, yeah, I wish I could go back to what I was doing last week, but here we are. So, it's gonna be fun. We got a lot to talk about over the next. I'm sure it'll take us about 6 years to get through all the celebration stuff at this pace. But yeah, I'm prepared for it. So yeah, it's gonna be fun next week. See you guys then.
Heck yeah, and you can follow Ben on social media at Ben Hart with no E. You can follow me at Seek3PO. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't yet. Thank you to everybody who super chatted tonight. Huge shout out to our channel members who support us. And make sure you check out patreon.com/theswu. That is where you can get our pre-shows as well as some merch. And just for Culture Slate in general, all the merch is over at cultureslate.com/store. And as always, make sure you check out all the other podcasts on our network: Star Wars Culture, Shadow Squadron, Ion Cannon, for all their great content out of Star Wars Celebration. And SW Underworld at gmail.com. Email us with your experience at Star Wars Celebration Anaheim, and we'd love to share that on our shows where we get a little bit more into what happened at the convention. So that is it. Once again, thank you everybody so much for listening. We'll be back next week. Until then, for Ben and Dominic, my name is Chris, and may the Force be with you.
It's a wrap.